moment, please. There we go. So you can see the flag. You can also see some Mr. Potato Heads over there, but I'll focus on the flag. If you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Our meeting is going to be a little bit different this evening because typically we would have the prerogative section at the end of the meeting. Solicitor will be speaking to that. It's our last agenda item. But I'd just like to take a moment to say happy 4th of July to everyone, to my colleagues, to the people of Bristol, to visitors of Bristol. This is a beautiful time of year. This is usually, well, this is one of the times that Bristol shines, not the only time, but it's certainly something that we're well known for. And being a different year, I thought we would do this a little bit differently. Just start in the beginning. I'd like to give my colleagues just one quick second, if you may, to just say happy 4th of July to everyone. So I'm going to go to Mr. Vice Chair Sweeney.
Happy 4th, everyone. Stay safe and looking forward to celebrating with you on the 4th. Take care.
And we'll go to Tony Texera.
Happy 4th to all, and hope everyone stays safe and has a wonderful 4th of July, considering the circumstances. So, feliz dia de 4 de julho na nossa vila de Bristol.
Mary?
I want to just wish everyone a happy 4th of July. It will be a different year, so I guess we'll see you in the car parade. I urge people to come to the patriotic exercises. There's plenty of room on the town common to socially distant, and that is something that most people don't ever get to see because they've staked out their spaces along the parade route. So, and I think we'd all agree it is a really nice event, and it is the event that it keeps us as the oldest continuous celebration in America. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Aaron? Didn't hear you, Aaron. Could you say that again?
Sorry, I was pushing the space button and somehow I wasn't doing anything. I just look forward to seeing everybody at the parade this year. Happy 4th, and everybody stay safe.
Thanks, everyone, for doing that. So, Mr. Clerk, if you will start right into the agenda, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council. The first item on this evening's agenda is the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, Tim here. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second, Tony.
There's a motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony for approval of the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Tim?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item A1, and this is the submission of minutes of June 10th, 2020.
Chairman, this is Tim. Make a motion to approve the previous minutes.
Tony, second.
There's a motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve the previous minutes. Is there any discussion? Tim?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, is item B1, and this is an advertised public hearing to consider ordinance 2020-04, which considers certain amendments to the town code, all relating to temporary accommodation of local restaurant industry to allow outdoor dining service.
Mr. Clerk, could you take just an extra moment to share with the public what the intent was of this? And we're on second reading now.
Okay, well, just very briefly, there's an executive order in place right now that is allowing for some creative use of public property to accommodate some businesses so that they can function in this peculiar time that we have. The ordinance basically codifies quite a bit of that and provides some exceptions to the current rules that would be, if adopted, put in place so that it would be become the actual ordinance of the town and not an executive order. This does have a sunset clause in it. I forget exactly when it is. It may be the end of the year. Perhaps the solicitor can weigh in on that. I don't have the ordinance, even though it's in my pile here. It's not right in front of me.
I can. Mr. Chair, do you want me to respond?
Yes, please.
Yes, this is Andrew Tights, solicitor. Yeah, this would sunset 6 months from adoption. The idea is that, well, before the more recent news, it looked like the state of emergencies might be ending, and there was a concern if restaurants were spending a lot of money to develop outdoor space, and would it only be for a month or so, and this would therefore allow them to use it for the remainder of this season. It'll expire in the middle of the winter, unless the council readopts it at that time, but that they know there's at least 6 months of guaranteed use of the space.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. So as the clerk pointed out, this is a public hearing. I'm going to open this up, and we're going to be a little bit slower than we normally are because the Zoom meetings, such and so forth, tend to be a little bit clunky. So I am opening up for the public hearing. So I'm asking, is there anyone here to speak in favor? And I'm going to take this moment, Chris, if you could explain to the participants how you would raise your hand, whether you're on the phone or otherwise.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. So if you are calling in by phone, you have the option to press *9. That will allow you to raise the hand and allow us to see it here on our Zoom app. If you have downloaded the Zoom app, you can use and find the raise hand feature by hovering over your video screen, and it should be at the bottom.
Thank you, Chris Vitale. Chris Vitale is our Economic Development Coordinator. So as I said, this is now an open public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? And I'm going to take a moment. I know that there's a gentleman named Dave with his hand raised, but it was raised prior to this public hearing, and I'm assuming it had nothing to do with that, but the caller, and he is no longer there. Excellent. Okay. So is there anyone here to speak in favor? As I said, we'll take a little bit of extra time here. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Okay. Is there anyone here to speak against? Is there anyone here to speak against? Is there anyone here to speak against?
Chairman, I make a motion to close the public hearing. Tim?
Tony, second.
Motion made by Tim to close the public hearing, seconded by Tony. Is there any discussion? Tim?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye, so we've closed the public hearing. What's this council's pleasure?
I move that that we approve the ordinance. Yeah, it's the ordinance, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will say that I actually like it. I think it looks really good down there, and I think it was a very creative use of space on State Street in particular.
Thank you.
Tony, I'll second that, and I certainly concur with Councilwoman Perrello.
So there was a motion made by Mary to approve, seconded by Tony. Is there any other discussion? Tim?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is a license petition from Rivers and Roads, formerly known as Christians, requesting extension of hours of operation and amendment to the existing floor plan. The request is something that took a little bit of research, and this was explained to the petitioner recently, that the council may recall that there is a specific provision in the town code that prevents the council from issuing Class BV intoxicating beverage licenses that have closing hours later than 11 o'clock p.m. That was put into effect in January of 2005, and this particular license was created in September of 2011. So I believe that the petitioner is present. I think I did see her name on the list. I don't know if she would like to speak to you specifically about her request. But right now, the hours that are set for this establishment are such that they are at the limit of what's allowable by the town code.
All right, is Leah on the call? Okay, I see her hand raised. So Leah, I am going to recognize you. And I just unmuted you. So if you could please state your name and address for the record.
Sure, it's Leah Roberge, and it's 91 Main Street in Warren, Rhode Island.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So it's my understanding, Leah, that you may have spoken with the town clerk and others with the town in regards to what was already shared with the clerk in regards to 11 versus 1. Is that true?
Yes, yes. So this really can be disregarded since our license is pretty much as good as it's going to get.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
It is. Okay. All right.
But
So
that's just in regards to the extension of the license, right? We're still going to speak on the amendment for the floor plan.
So we have in front of us the extension to the hours and the amendment to the floor plan. So yes, and
Okay.
actually I'd also like you to take what we like to call the 30-second commercial. So give you an opportunity to speak to us and everyone on the call about what you're doing and why it makes sense to come and visit you. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So we purchased Christians last year with the hopes to rebrand it and make it something of our own. And so what we're looking to do now is pretty much just bring a new idea to the town. We're looking to do more American food, same thing with some, variety from vegan to meats to pizza to pasta, and really take that burger, but throw it on there with a twist that's really creative. And that's really what we're looking. And so the floor plan at Christians prior to was that they had what they considered a bar, and then we had a community table. And so what we're looking to do is actually extend that community table and move the opening from the middle to the end, just for the flow of the guests as they come in, so that the servers are not really, waiting right in between where you're dining. But that's really what we're looking to do. And we're just looking to have a good time and serve some good food and, good cocktail if people are interested, and just bring some more variety to the town for the community.
Thumbs up from me. So I'm sure I'd like to open up to my colleagues. What questions do my colleagues have, if any?
Mr. Chairman, this is Tim. I'm just excited that you're opening your doors, and we're happy to have you here. And I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the alcohol beverage license based on the positive recommendations, and with the hours, though, of being Monday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night, and then Saturday to Sunday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. That's my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Barney, second.
There's a motion and a second to approve as stated. Discussion. Hearing none. Tim?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Leah, congratulations. We look forward to the opening of your new place.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Good luck.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I think I'm on number 2 too, so I'll stay on.
You may be next. Yes. You can stay right on. Mr. Clerk.
Okay, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, that is correct. The item D2 is a request from the same petitioner to extend the hours of the entertainment license, currently set at 10 o'clock p.m. close, and the obviously the license could not exceed that of the alcoholic beverage license with the 11 o'clock limitation.
I feel emotion coming, Tim.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Getting my air, you know. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the dancing and entertainment license based on the positive recommendations. And as I stated before, the times will be Monday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night, and Saturday to Sunday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Mr. Chairman, Sundays are not typically included in regular dancing and entertainment licenses.
Okay, so it would be.
Oh, that would be, that's usually a special request. I mean, the council can grant what it wishes. It's just that most dancing and entertainment licenses are not valid on Sunday.
I appreciate that correction. I'll revise my motion to be Monday to Friday, 11:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. and Saturday only from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Is there a second?
Tony, second.
So there's a motion made by Tim to approve as stated, seconded by Tony. Just a point of clarity, Leah, is that you are always welcome, as all of our establishments are, to request a one-day dancing and entertainment license for Sunday if there's something special that you are looking to do. That's absolutely no problem. So is there a discussion from the council? Hearing none. Tim?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Again, Leah, congratulations and good luck.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks.
Next item is item E1, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council. This is the annual renewal of hawkers and peddlers licenses with a recommendation provided by the Town Administrator and Chief of Police.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the hawker and peddlers license renewals for 2020 to 2021. Tim?
Tony, second.
There's a motion made by Tim to approve the hawkers and peddlers license, seconded by Tony. Discussion? Hearing none. Tim?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is the petition of Michael T. Burns and Carl Antonovich, representing Bristol County Concerned Citizens and the VFW Post 237, respectively, request the opportunity to raise the first responders flag at Independence Park.
I am looking for the petitioner, and Chris Vitale, if you don't mind helping me here. I see Mike with a hand raised. I'm assuming that is Mike Burns. I'm going to click to allow you to speak. What I need you to do, please, is state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mike Burns. I live at 244 Metacom Avenue.
Welcome.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
All right. You know, for the last 3 to 4 months, our first responders of all types have really been on the front line. And we've got great first responders in Bristol. We've got a great police department, a very professional police department. We have an amazing volunteer fire department with folks from all different levels of life who really work at the profession of being a fireman, even though they are volunteers. We've got super EMTs. All around, we've got great first responders, and they've been doing a great job for the last 4 months. And we thought it was appropriate to give them a shout out to let them know that the people of Bristol appreciate their support to the community. We think that it's very important that we provide them with moral support, that we provide them with the deserved accolades, that we make sure that they know that they are appreciated. We thank them for their service, and we thank them for the service by raising the first responders flag for the remainder of the month of July. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I just want to remind the council that there were several messages that came to me on behalf of the council, which I did share all of those with all the members. I hope that you all did receive my correspondence on that, correct?
Yes, we did. Thank you. So we had conversation at our last meeting in regards to a flag raising. In the effort to be consistent and even-handed, in our last conversation, I had asked for council conversation first and a motion from the council, if there is one, so we can then open it up to the public. I was reached out to, if that is correct English, and I know that maybe all of you were, and I see some hand raised, and we'll get to the public and we will allow public dialogue in a few minutes, but first I would like to hear from this council and what next steps we'd like to take.
Mr. Chairman, this is Tim. If I may, I want to thank Mike Burns for putting this on the agenda. I completely agree with him. I think first responder volunteers, whether they're volunteers or private, their lives, they keep us safe. And when I refer to our first responders, I'm referring to police, fire, EMS, and dispatchers. You know, they really protect our community, and they deserve to be recognized. And I would like to recognize them on the National First Responders Day, which is October 28th. And I'd love to do it for a week. And I'd love to see our town do a small ceremony, and we make it something special. They deserve it. And I just think if it's COVID safe, we could do something a little bit better. And and that's my motion.
So I'm going to take it as, I heard that as a motion to recognize this request, but have it held on October 28th. Is that correct?
October 28th, which is the National First Responders Day, which is celebrated nationally, which I think it's a great time. And, you know, due to Independence Day coming around the corner, I would hate to see our first responders any sort of diminishment there with all the ceremonies going on and everything with us celebrating Independence Day. I think if we could do it on October 28th, we can do it right, and we can do it Bristol style, very classic.
Okay. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, this is Aaron Lay. I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, this is Aaron Lay.
Go ahead.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank the Vice Chairman for putting forth this motion with the October date. I think it's a great idea for honoring our first responders. I think with that said, we do have to be a little bit careful about the optics of raising another flag so closely on the heels of what we did at our last meeting. We have to be careful about seeming provocative, and I don't think our council would want to endorse that. And so that's why I would support this October date. I also, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, I would like to respond to Mr. Burns in some of the ways that we do support first responders. Is that okay?
Of course, but you're going to go ahead, please.
Okay. I just wanted to reaffirm some of the ways that myself and some of my colleagues support our first responders. We have a park named after our first responders, where last month we held a fireman's memorial service to honor those who have passed away. This council has passed a $250 property tax exemption to our first responders to appreciate all the volunteer work that they do. And I've certainly, along with all of my colleagues, have attended the police officers memorial mass at St. Mary's Church every year. And I know that there's always a lot more that we can do for our first responders. But again, I think we have to be a little bit careful about the optics of what we do when people are healing in the aftermath of what happened last month. And that's why I think having this a little bit earlier might be a little bit too soon. I think we have the opportunity here to turn this into something good, where if we hold that flag raising on October 28th, we can celebrate the sacrifices of our first responders during the same time as everybody else in the nation is doing it. And we can gather together as a community if we do it this way. Black, brown, yellow, white, Portuguese, Italian, Polish, Irish, German. We can all gather together to honor our neighbors who work and volunteer as first responders. And what a powerful symbol of unity for our first responders if we do it that way. And that's why I support this action, and I hope my colleagues will as well. And So how about we up the ante a little bit and give those first responders the big shout out that they actually deserve. Thank you.
Other discussion from this council? We heard you, but very slightly. Could you?
Can you hear me now?
A little bit better. Go ahead.
Right now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So am I hearing clear that we are foregoing the current request to do it now and move this to October? Is that what I'm hearing correctly?
That was the motion was made by Tim, seconded by Aaron, to not fly it on the 3rd as requested, but to fly it on the 28th, or at least on the 28th is what I heard as the motion.
Okay, I think because the time he's requesting, they're requesting this to be flown for the entire month of July or going from the 3rd through the end of July. I know we have a policy coming up, so I think we need to be considerate of their request. In fact, if we're going to postpone this and, you know, we're talking about one day, and I know that's what the policy is calling for. However, because this request is made at this time, we need to be very considerate of their request and the amount of time that they're requesting to fly the flag, even if it's done at that time in October.
Mary?
I just, you know, just a little bit different thinking about this. First of all, I don't really have an issue doing something in October, even if we do something now. Just the fact that we have a volunteer fire and rescue department here in our community, outside of the fact that they are top notch, you know, you can match them with anybody else in the state for their services and what they do. I actually think we can't thank them enough times and show them. So whether it's Firefighter Sunday, whether it is October, which is, I think, sort of just came out in all these requests and letters and emails, whether it is at this time or not, I don't really have a problem doing it as many times as possible because many people would not be able to afford to live in this town. It's already difficult enough, but if we had to be paying millions and millions of dollars for the services of firefighters and rescue, we'd really be in a mess, number one. Number two, I think it, honestly, I understand Aaron's point about the optics, but I do also think that we got ourselves into this. It was very, very, very clear at the last meeting that we were sort of violating our unwritten rules, but our normal everyday procedures when these kind of requests come. And usually the requests are more about like the Armenian, you know, to commemorate the Armenian genocide, for example, which is like a one-day kind of situation. Very rarely do we have these sorts of requests. And I believe someone in the last meeting, I don't know if it was somebody who was in favor or opposed to the flag, said that, you know, when is it going to stop? And they made a point of saying June is Pride Month, and why aren't we going to fly that flag? Well, I guess because no one brought that petition forward. But, you know, we said, and I think that our chairman in particular cautioned us many times that we would be setting a precedent and that we would not be, it would be very difficult to say no to another group of people that would come forward until we had a policy in effect. And I, you know, usually and oftentimes at meetings, I'm the one who talks about those precedents, particularly about liquor licenses and other things. And I do think that we kind of set this up in motion. I think it's very difficult to say no to a group that wants to fly a flag, have a march, whatever the case may be, because that's their right, as that part is their right as well. And I feel like, you know, while you talked about it in terms of optics, I know people are very upset about it, but there are people on both sides of this issue. And I actually am taken aback by the language, the name calling that went on in the emails that I got and that we all got. and I was going to read a few of those. I'll do it later. Just a few excerpts, because I don't know whatever happened to dialogue, to respecting other people's points of view, to being able to celebrate all people in our community, because that's what I always thought we did. I tried to do. And instead that we're going to sort of now put it off because, you know, we're going to be intimidated by people that say, well, we had our right, you gave us a right to do X, but now now we're going to deny it to someone else. And I don't think that's right. We knew what we were getting into. We were very, 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 very clear. Mr. Chairman was very clear many times. I'm sorry to say it, Nathan, you were right. We were, you know, you were right. And this is the ramification of it. And so this whole thing about another event in October, that's great. We don't know what October is going to bring. We may be in a lockdown again, who knows? Now, the other thing I just want to say, which I find a little bit, I don't know if irony is the right word for this or not, but when I first saw this date, I thought, what the heck? The 3rd of July? Oh my God, 4th of July, all these things. Well, in any given time, other than this year, and hopefully this will be the only time in our lifetimes, our first responders are straight out. They are exhausted. They have been working for what now would be almost 2 weeks with concerts, carnivals, working with working with the FBI, Homeland Security. I mean, the amount of security, most people probably don't realize the amount of effort that goes in, the amount of work that we have to do. I'm talking about the police, fire, and rescue. The number of people we bring in and the sheer cost of putting on that event and making sure that people are safe and making sure that, you know, when I was younger, the rescue would go through that parade and everybody have to push over to the side. And now we have, you know, medic stations set up through the route. And this is the 1 year that actually, if there was an event planned, like where they could come, I don't know how many people are interested in coming, especially with the controversy that's ensued over this. This is the 1 year that the first responders actually could go to something on 4th of July. That's the irony of the whole thing. Most of the time they are too busy. If you talk to, as you guys all, many of you know, the big time for class reunions in Bristol is 4th of July, not Christmas. More people come home at 4th of July. And one of my classmates, when we had a big reunion we had a reunion planned for July 5th. And I said to him, and this was dated, you know, planned, and the date was out there like November, December. I said, oh, you're going to be coming? And he said, are you kidding? I'm exhausted. He's like a high level person in our fire department. And he said, I'm going to be like in my recliner resting. So here is this day that they could actually maybe, you know, come to something, do something. As I said, they may not want to because of the controversy and because of the, because there's going to be like a quote counter protest as well and all of that. But I thought, oh, that's pretty great. They could come to something and be recognized on the 4th of July, which is incredibly detailed planning that nothing major happens here. And I don't think people have a real idea, unless they've been around it or seen it, of what it takes to support these events for those few weeks. And it is and let me tell you, everybody holds their breath until, you know, that parade is over for 2 weeks. People are holding their breath, making sure and hoping and praying that nothing goes wrong. So I don't think 4th of July I don't think that this message is getting lost in the 4th of July, because it's actually, and if you know, the parade is the military, civic, and firemen's parade, by the way, as well. So anyway, that's just my thoughts about that aspect of it. I don't think it's an either or. Like, I don't think it's like an either or. Like, for some reason, people have, you know, implied that we can't do both. We can't honor our first responders, you know, a month out or several weeks after, you know, we did another activity with Black Lives Matter. Like, I see them as two separate things. I don't think one diminishes the other. I honestly don't. I know people have read a lot of things into it, and they've, you know, want to call everybody and everything relating to it racist and everything else. I don't think that's an accurate reflection, but it's a disappointing one, because people should be tolerant of each other. And that is what I thought the message was At the last council meeting, what I always thought the message was for people in Bristol, what the message is in my life that I try to do is be tolerant, be respectful, and learn from other people's perspectives. That's what I do. I had a conversation with one of these people who's got his hands up. We don't agree a lot on most of these issues. But I mean, I enjoy talking to him, and you know, he might make a good point, and I hope I'll make a good point to him as well. So that's my thought for the moment.
For the moment.
Mr. Chairman, can I just be recognized for a point of clarification, a question of clarification?
Go ahead.
And perhaps maybe the petitioner can bring up or respond to this, but I did a search for the first responders flag, and there was a lot of different flags that were kind of coming up. I know that, you know, certainly the flag that we flew last month has a certain branding to it. Do we know what this flag looks like that is being planned to be raised on July 3rd? Is that something that the petitioner can speak to?
Mike, can you respond to that, please? I'm going to give you a moment to unmute. You are muted right now. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, it's a standard first responders flag. It has seven stripes, if I remember correctly, that talk about honoring first responders from the police, the fire department, EEMT, medical personnel, and in some cases the flag will have veterans on it. So it's all those people that are out there sort of on the cutting edge, helping the community. And I think it's extremely important when someone performs well doing an arduous task that you reward them immediately. You don't wait forever. It loses the impact of providing that support and that recognition to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I just get in here a little bit on just a couple more?
Yes, and then I'm going to, because I haven't spoken my piece yet,
Okay.
and I do want to open it up to the public, but go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't know if you wanted to go last or
No. Go ahead, please. Please.
So the petitioner has described 5 different services, I believe, on the flag, and he said that there's 7. So is there another 2 that are also on the flag? So it's military, EMS, EMT, police.
I saw dispatcher on. I just looked it up really quick on my phone.
I've just seen so many of these flags. There's just, I mean, some outrageous ones have actually popped up when I've Googled it. So military, EMT, police.
Dispatcher, right?
The dispatcher?
Well, the one that I don't know which one they're suggesting. I just looked at it right now. They're saying corrections, dispatch, EMS,
Corrections?
nurse.
Okay, wait. We're going to stop here for a moment. All conversation goes through me.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. So Mary, I'm going to recognize you because you were listing them, and it seemed you had that list in front of you. Go ahead.
Well, I just kind of got off of it, but I'll get it back in a minute. I mean, I'm just pulled it up now. I hadn't looked it up before. I think it might be if Mike or someone else on this call who was involved with this might want to pull up. There are, like you said, several of them. Some are just colors and some have the actual words on them. And the one that has the word, I mean, one of the ones that has the words on it, and I'm not suggesting this is it or not, I don't know. Corrections, dispatch, EMS, nurse, firefighter, police, and military. That's this one here, and they're in different, you can see it, but they're in different colors.
Yes.
You know.
So, Mary, I'm going to take a moment. Mike, I'll tell you what, it's an absolutely fair question to ask what specifically the flag's going to look like. Can you respond to that at this moment, or do you need a moment to respond?
I can respond to it now.
Go ahead.
Okay, I have the flag in front of me. And it's got a red stripe at the top, then a blue stripe for police, then dispatch, then firefighters, doctors, medical, and military and armed services. Salute, and at the very top, it's salute to our heroes.
Is Mike, can I just ask if Mike is on the line? Is he on a video that he could show us the picture?
I've got it on a cell phone, and I don't know if I've got video or not. But it's yeah, let me see if I can get my video to work.
I'll tell you what, Mike,
Have you got me?
Mike, as you do that, we're going to keep I want to continue with the conversation so we move forward. Aaron, the floor was previously yours. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that we knew what we were debating about, because, you know, the last time that this issue was brought up, we had a pretty good idea of what, you know, was being expected. So.
She had a couple of different things.
Okay. So I'm going to open this up to the public just in a moment. Before I do, I wanted to share my thoughts. I think that some great points were made in regards to honoring our first responders. I happen to take the stance that I don't believe that we need to wait till October. In fact, I'm okay with celebrating both October and now. I think some great points were made. I also would like to point out that those points that were made, these are not from the first responders in a classic way, right? The people that are doing the hard work aren't asking us to do this. This was to recognize their hard work. Whoever the group is that's asking to do it, I can't imagine a time where we can't say thank you a million times. I was talking to somebody recently about this and said, I don't say I love you to my wife just on Valentine's Day. It's every day. And I think that suggesting that we can't do it now, you know what, everyone that I talked to on the previous conversation was respectful about why they disagreed, as this conversation has been right now, and I know it will be when I open up to the public. But I truly believe that there's no reason to make a choice here. I think supporting this moving forward supports our first responders, and I don't know why this would be a concern for us. I don't think that anyone that lives in Bristol and knows our Bristol Fire and police and EMS has nothing but outstanding things to say. And I'm talking about 99% because no one is perfect, but I will not degrade their quality by saying no one is perfect. They're outstanding. And I think it's okay for us to recognize and to be clear to my colleagues that have suggested that we wait till October. I don't think you're saying don't recognize them. In fact, I don't think you're saying that at all. You're saying wait. And I personally disagree with that, and I've heard some other disagreement. But I'd like to open up to the public. There is a list of people with their hands up, and I am going to do this in a moment. I'm going to remind you of a couple of things. Number one, we expect respect. In fact, we require it. At our last meeting, when the public shared its thoughts, you did so in an excellent manner, and we commend you for that. Thank you. We expect nothing less this time, and nothing less will be allowed. This is not a public hearing, but this council, and to be very fair, prior councils have always looked for public input. We value it, and we value it now. So I'm going to open it up for public conversation. I should say public comment, not conversation. I ask that you limit your comments to 2 minutes. And for clarity, I'm not suggesting 2 minutes is your goal. I would ask that you be as brief as possible. And if you do support or you don't support and your comment has already been made, it's okay. You are more than welcome to say, I agree or disagree. I don't think you should support it. You don't have to go any farther than that. In fact, reiterating will slow down the process. So less than 2 minutes, please. No, there's not going to be a timer, but I will call you out if it's too long. And I think everybody's going to do a great job with that. I'm going to go right down the list as it shows to me and my participants, starting with Beth Voro. So Beth, I have now unmuted you. What I need you to do, please, and everyone, please, and I'll remind you all, to state your name and address for the record and share your thoughts on whether you support and why, or don't support, excuse me, and why. Beth.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Beth Voro. I live at 34 Elmwood Drive in Bristol, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight.
Welcome.
I am opposed to the petition, and I get that that's an unpopular position. It is not easy to oppose an effort to honor first responders. We all owe them a debt of gratitude. But I hope you will say no, because this was never about first responders. You know better than I do that 3 of the leaders of this so-called concerned citizens group were among the most vocal opponents of flying the Black Lives Matter flag. They told you that raising a flag was a, quote, feel-good action, and that the town shouldn't be raising flags for different movements, and that the last group didn't deserve to have a flag raised. And of course, now they want their own flag. So who could possibly object to flying a flag, a first responders flag? And that's exactly what they're banking on. But my question is, why now? Why on the holiest of holy days in Bristol? Why less than a month after we celebrated Firemen's Memorial Day? Why the day before a parade that is largely in honor of first responders, military, firefighters, police? Why? And why haven't the petitioners answered any of these questions about why now? We all know why now. It doesn't take a cynic to understand why now. There's no shortage of honor and gratitude for our first responders in Bristol. But there's a right time to do this and a right way to do this. And I am grateful that to the counselors who made motions to postpone this event until it can be done right and with the right motives. That's the most important thing. It needs to be done with the right motives. And so I would ask respectfully that the council set aside this petition for now, and then set aside a period of time that you determine, beginning on October 28th, which has been set aside by Congress to honor first responders. That is a perfect time to raise a flag in Bristol.
You went over the 2, but
sorry.
If you finish up, it's okay. If you could just finish up your comment.
Bristol's premier location is Independence Park. That's the perfect time, it's the perfect place. Give them the recognition they deserve. How could even the petitioners object to waiting until October 28th? Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. I'm going to go now to Peter Hewitt. I've unmuted. Wait a minute. Please hold. That was my fault. Please hold. Peter was next in line, and Chris, I don't see him there. I hope I didn't do something that was. Chris Vitale, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I'm just taking a look. He might have dropped off the call temporarily.
So he was next in line, but I do not see him there. So we're going to go next in line, which was.
Oh, wait. My apologies. I did find him. Here, let me. All right, there we go.
So Peter Hewitt, if you could please state your name and address for the record.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. Well, that's good. All right. Just a few comments. Number one,
please, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Sorry. Peter Hewitt, 11 Wendy Drive, Bristol. I think it goes unsaid. Every resident of Bristol would certainly be willing to recognize that our police department is exceptional. Our volunteer fire department is exceptional, and they do it out of simply pure dedication, no remuneration due. Had they, or if they ever seek remuneration, it would be devastating to our budget. EMTs save lives every day. So for me, to question whether we should wait until October The fact of the matter is, our first responders, given the tough times first responders have experienced in the last couple of months throughout the nation, and will continue to experience, given the disbanded, the policies regarding disbanding police budgets, disestablishing police organizations, it seems to me that we cannot do enough to give the special recognition to our first responders as they are deserving of receiving, particularly in these troubled times. So the idea of raising a flag at Independence Park in honor of those special individuals, it doesn't seem too much to ask of this very patriotic community at a very patriotic time in our existence, to show that kind of special recognition for a group of people, men and women, who put their lives on the line every day and oftentimes do not get the respect, do not get the consideration that they deserve. The very least we can do is raise a flag. Now, you can wait until October. What I would suggest is if October is a day or a time of national recognition for special first responders, then we simply do it again in October. There is no reason whatsoever why the town of Bristol should refuse on July 3rd to raise a flag in honor of people who preserve, protect, and serve and save our lives every damn day. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, I'm going to go to Dave. He's next on the list. Dave, if you could please state your full name and address for the record. I'm going to ask you to unmute. We cannot hear you. I'm going to give you another moment and we'll come back to you. So I'm going to go next to Dyshel Palmer. Please. And you should be able to speak now. If you could please state your full name and address for the record. Hold on.
Nathan, I'm getting a message that we would have to upgrade Dyshel to a panelist due to the version of her Zoom, which we can do.
Go ahead, Chris, and do that for the duration of the comments, if you would, please.
Certainly.
Dyshel, just one moment as we make it available for you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. If you could please state your full name and address for the record.
Dyshel Palmer, 29 Arlington Ave in Warren, Rhode Island. Is my face on here?
You are on video and audio.
Okay. First, I want to start by saying I do second Council Member Tim and Aaron. I also want to second what Beth said, and I'll make this short. I don't think anybody in their right mind is against the first responders flag being raised. I absolutely do question the motive behind it, because as Beth did say, you know, these leaders of this Bristol County Concerned Citizens group were completely against the Black Lives Matter flag to be put up. I just wonder what their motive is behind this. It seems like they are using first responders as a mask, which is completely insulting to our first responders, simply because I've heard they have not gone around town or attended.
If I may stop you, I want to make sure that we stay on point, and I
Absolutely.
I want you to make your point, but
yep, I'm getting there.
That we don't speculate, please.
Yep. No, I just want to know there have been certain events around town to honor our first responders. As Aaron said, the firefighter memorial, why were certain members not attending that? So I just want to second what Aaron and Tim said again and raise the flag in October. And that's all I have to say. I question their motive. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Chris, I'm assuming that you'll take care of the, thank you, sir. So next I'm going to go to Troy Kennedy. And I have now unmuted. If you could please state your full name and address for the record.
Hey, good evening, sir. My name is Troy Kennedy, 71 Maple Lane in Bristol, Rhode Island. I'm here tonight with the commander of the VFW as well, sharing the same devices, what have you. But again, I'd like to say thank you and good evening to the chairman, the town council, the administrator, and all of our Bristol friends and neighbors. And I also would hope that we can all be respectful tonight as we discuss this issue without being provocative or disrespectful. Let me just say this. Look, we understand, you know, from as a veteran and from the people that I talk to, my friends, my veteran friends, what have you, we are extremely disturbed and upset about the tragic death of Mr. George Floyd at the hands of the Minneapolis Police Department. That event was absolutely horrific. It was disgusting. It was wrong, and it was inexcusable. So let me just say that for the record. I spent 35 years of my life supporting and defending the Constitution, protecting people's rights at home and abroad of every race. I've been in foxholes with peoples of every race. They're some of my best friends, some of the best fighters, and some of the best human beings that you can imagine. This isn't about race. In fact, at my core, would like to support the Black Lives Matter movement. My only concern is that when you go to the site and you look up the Black Lives Matter org in the site, and you look at some of the demands and what is said, and some of the threats on those sites, that if they don't get these things that they would like to have, they basically, you know, they essentially threaten violence. And that's, I just wanted to say that.
So it's important that we, just as I asked the last commenter to stay inside what is in front of this council for a myriad of reasons. I understand, I think we all do, that the conversation is connected in regards to last meeting, but it's imperative and required that we stay on point to if you're supporting and why, or if you're not supporting and why.
So let me say, sir, let me finish in 30 seconds, because in closing, it was brought up, so I just wanted to address it. I'm fully, I have a lot of friends that are Black, but it was brought up. And so it is my oath to support and defend the Constitution that runs contrary to some of the means and the measures and the ways that are troubling to me, to the way the organization lists some of its demands. And that is it. If there was another movement, another organization that didn't list those objectives in the way they do, with threats of violence and what have you, to tear down the system, I would absolutely, and I still would like to get behind it. And I hope somebody would reach out to me and tell me what organization that is, because I do want to support them as much as I can. That is the concern of the veterans that I know. But getting back to the first responders, they absolutely deserve our support right now. We've just come out of a terrible, unprecedented pandemic. Every time they go to a house, they put themselves at risk. These same first responders, if there's a fire or there's an emergency tonight in any one of our house, or they were break-in, they would be the first one to come and put their lives on the line. I hate to see them being suggested as a pawn in this issue. But the fact is, I speak tonight in support of the Bristol Concerned Citizens Organization's requests and the VFW commanders' support to simply organize, walk, and raise the appropriate flag that recognizes all first responders this Friday morning at Independence Park. And I apologize, because I know that some have taken offense to this being so close to the Black Lives Matter flag being raised. That's not our intent, and this is absolutely in no way intended as an insult or an attack on the recent Bristol Black Lives Matter successful and peaceful march. And back to you, sir.
Thank you. And I'm going to take a moment for all of us to say thank you for your service and thank all veterans for their service. I am going to go next to Alexandria DiLorenzo. I have now unmuted you. I need you to state your full name and your address for the record, please.
Hi, it's Alexandria DiLorenzo. I'm at 403 Wood Street. I actually was the person who was on here last time and said that I was going to be so proud to finally change my address to Bristol. And I actually just recently switched my things so that I can hopefully get a place here with my partner in the next couple of months. I'm just here to say that I fully support what Aaron and Tim both presented, as well as everything that Beth said. I think spoke perfectly to how we feel in terms of the flag being raised now. You know, this is I'm going to use the language of Mr. Barnes from his last, the first meeting that we were all here together, that it's a slippery slope that has now happened because, the quote from him was that it becomes divisive. And that kind of feels like what's happening now is it feels like it being presented at this point in time feels like a way to divide us, and it feels like an us versus them, those people who stood up for this Black Lives Matter flag to fly. And now this flag, because nobody is in opposing of the first responders. We are also grateful, thankful, and blessed to have these people in our lives. I'm friends with many of the first responders here in town. I in no way oppose a flag flying for them. They completely deserve that. It's more so the motive behind it is what is of a major concern to me. And having this march feels like a covert sort of racism that doesn't entirely show up in a way that's like, oh, this is a racist action. It's the underlying aspects of it. So I don't want to take up too much time here because I think that Beth said everything perfectly in terms of, us citizens and how we feel. And I thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to speak. Once again, I know that this is a very, very difficult position for all of you to be in, considering nobody wants to oppose putting up a flag for the first responders that, fight for us every day. So it is a very difficult, slippery slope, just like Mr. Barnes said, because saying no to this seems like you're saying no to first responders, but I think we all know that that's not anybody's incentive here. We all love the first responders. So I'll close with that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I'm going to go next to Thomas Carroll. I've unmuted you. Please state your full name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Carroll. I live at 1172 Hope Street in Bristol.
Evening.
Good evening. I'd first of all like to say thank you for the opportunity to speak on this petition. Just a little background on who I am. I've been an EMS professional and volunteer since I was 15 years old. Since I'm going to be 60 this year, I'll let you folks do the math. I served 16 years as volunteer in Coventry, and I've worked for the town's paramedic service for the last 33 years, and I'm the current president. I've been honored in that time to serve alongside some of the most remarkable volunteers in the state. The amount of volunteerism in this town is well renowned. What these folks do is extra special. Everybody has already commented on this. The question is, why now? I can tell you firsthand why now. I employ over 350 people in Mass and Rhode Island. They're frontline caring for COVID patients. The volunteers in this town don PPE, protective and personal protective equipment in 80, 85 degree weather these days. They go in, put their own lives at risk, their families' lives and health at risk. And I couldn't think of a better time to recognize their sacrifices and what they've done. I certainly am well aware of the October date and appreciate any indication to recognize them on both days. I've been in this profession since 1984. In that time, I have seen multiple pandemics come, preparation for H1N1, bird flu, swine flu, this one, that one, the other one. None have impacted the profession of volunteers the way this one has. None has affected anyone's our everyday life the way this one has. So I couldn't think of a more important time to recognize these folks. And no, we don't solicit when we go to praise somebody. I don't think anybody realizes this is coming. It's well deserved, and I would certainly appreciate the council's support on the raising of the flag. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. I'm going to go next to Sergey. I hope I'm saying that correctly. If you could state your full name and address for the record. You are unmuted. We can't hear you, but I unmuted you. You are still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead. State your full
Yes,
name.
hi, my name is Sergey Sharenko. I'm at 25 Monterey Drive in Bristol.
Thank you. Welcome.
So thank you. I would like to speak in support of the notion and having it on the 3rd. And I would like to attend. And I actually have friends that are first responders locally, and they would like to attend. So I want to know what the optics will be of me telling them that the town council didn't pass it and the event would be canceled. So we should do it now, and we should do it in October. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. I'm going to go next to Francis Betancourt. I've unmuted you. Please state your full name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Francis Betancourt. I live at 1320 Hope Street in Bristol. Let me, as one of our previous speakers mentioned, give you a little background. I have been a registered nurse for 50 years and am currently a nursing professor, and want to say that this is the ideal time to do this. Rhode Island has distinguished itself by being #1 in containing COVID-19. And when you speak of first responders, you do speak of fire and rescue, which no one mentioned specifically, EMTs, police, but there's a lot of pride that I took in seeing the examples of the flags that do include nurses and physicians. Does anyone have any perception of how many nurses in the town of Bristol and how many physicians from the town of Bristol who gave of their time, who risked their lives as well to fight on the front lines and became first responders? This is the ideal time. Rhode Island is at a huge lull right now, but these same responders may very well be called upon again in the very near future. Now, we talk of first responders, but I think a group of people that we have forgotten are the people within our own very special community. How many people opened their arms to those who needed a place to stay, those who needed food, and of course, those who needed toilet paper as well. So we need to include everyone. This, I feel, is the ideal time to do it when Rhode Island has distinguished itself as rising above all others in the country. Ideal time. As well, I feel we should also recognize, along with the rest of the country, in October, but this is a special time. This is a special time for Bristol to recognize our not only first responders, but patriotism itself. What greater patriotism is there to sacrifice oneself for mankind? That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments. I'm going to go next to S. Brigidi. I'm assuming that's Steve Brigidi. You are unmuted. If you could state your full name and address for the record.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman. Stephen Brigidi, 93 Highland Road here in Bristol. I first want to say that I feel very strongly about the petitioner. He is someone I regard as a personal friend, and I have every support for what he is trying to undertake in terms of supporting our first responders. However, that said, I take issue with this petition because I feel it is essentially a smokescreen for an agenda that there is a group behind, a group called the Bristol County Concerned Citizens. I think what they're really interested in is creating their own particular platform and this was stated very recently in the Bristol Phoenix. They're promoting their traditional values campaign, and it really is discriminatory in a big way because it serves to basically undermine others. It has no real legitimate benefit toward what I would regard as human rights. And I think there's a human rights issue at stake here. Specifically, these concerned citizens they're reacting and they're targeting the very recent effort of Black Lives Matter, which I am a strong supporter of.
I'm going to stop you, and I ask that, and I've done this with everyone, I'm going to do it with you, is that I want to stay on point with this. And I understand that this is a relevant part of the conversation, but I feel it's going to a negative place. I want to stay respectful. So if you don't support it because you don't support the group, it's okay, but I ask that you stay at that level. Our last conversation 3 weeks ago did, and I have no reason to think that this one won't go that direction too. So I would ask again, if we could stay in the respectful level and you can respectfully disagree, please continue.
I am strongly urging the council to reject this petition because I feel there's a lot more behind it than what is being advertised essentially. And I think that it is, in fact, a camouflage or a smokescreen for other issues. This is a political stunt, and that's what I'm against. I'm certainly in favor, as everyone unanimously has stated, of first responders, and I strongly support that. I feel very strongly that Tim and Aaron their hearts are in the right place, that there's an appropriate time. If there's anything that should be done during this time because of the COVID, it's what I would regard as a time of healing. Let there be silence. Let us honor some of the people who have suffered. And we'll just leave it at that at this point. But Mr. Chairman, members of the council, please consider the other motives here. And I just want to say thank you for hearing me. And there's much more at stake here than what the petition calls for. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, I'm going to go, and Nick, I saw you last time and I butchered your last name and I don't know why I continue, so I'm going to ask you to state it again, state your full name and address for the record. You are unmuted. Actually,
I am. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, yeah, my name is Nick Pinello. I'm at 76 Kingswood Road. I think it's an appropriate time now to honor all the first responders. And just to clarify, I do have a picture of the flag here. It's a flag that says at the top, "Salute our heroes," and there are stripes for nurses, police, dispatch, firefighters, doctors, and EMS, military and armed services. At the bottom, it says workers, volunteers, and service. As you heard from a number of people today, nurses, doctors, EMS, police, everyone's been fighting this pandemic and risking their lives. And I think it's appropriate time for all of them to be recognized. And I just want to state one other thing for the record, that a number of people have already called this organization racist, and I think that it's very inappropriate. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And again, I apologize for not pronouncing your last name correctly. Mike Gibbemeyer, I have unmuted you. Please state your full name and address for the record.
Good evening, Nathan. Michael Gibbemeyer, 7 Jane Lane in Bristol.
Welcome.
Thank you. I had a prepared presentation, but most of it's been covered by the previous presenters. But a couple of questions I have. What image are we trying to project by this ceremony on Friday? And as far as Congress designating a day in October, it doesn't say that we can't have 2 celebrations, and 2 celebrations are okay. I guess what I really wanted to say is I agree with Nathan, and I'm going to read off my sheet here. And it says, Mother's Day is celebrated on a single day in May. Yet we show our love and appreciation of her throughout the year, 365 days a year. When our service personnel in the armed forces are away from home, possibly in a foreign land, we do not wait until they return to show our love and concern. We do this constantly via mail and email. We show our love for our spouses throughout the year, not only on our wedding anniversary and birthdays. This is how we should express our gratitude to our first responders. Throughout the year, especially this year, they're not called for defunding of the police departments. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Nathan. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, I'm going to go to Jay Anderson 713 is how you show up. If you could please state your full name and address for the record. And you need to unmute.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Judy Anderson. I live at 117 Constitution Street, and I'll make this short.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. Nathan, I support what you, Nathan, and Mary have stated. I think the town can have 2 celebrations, so I urge the council to support this petition. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. I'm next going to go to Adam Ramos. I've unmuted you. If you could please state your full name and address for the record.
Hi, thank you, Chairperson Caloro. My name is Adam Ramos. I live at 116 Bayview Avenue. First, I'll just state out front that I am opposed to the petition and in support of the motion tonight made by Councilman Sweeney and Councilman Lay. And rather than repeat some of the things that have already been said, I'd like to address, I think, an issue that was raised during some of the discussion amongst the council members regarding the slippery slope that has been created and the ordinary respect for precedent and custom. In my view and in my experience, almost every rule has an exception. The rationale that this council adopted in order to raise the Black Lives Matter flag at the last meeting was accompanied and brought upon through myriad stories and reasons from many who spoke, including the petitioners, that demonstrated that the act of raising the flag would be a signal of solidarity with a population that has unquestionably been subject to historical inequity and disregard for basic human rights. There was ample justification in that situation for an exception to ordinary practice or rule. With respect to the current petition, I fail to see a basis to make such an exception. Although I have the utmost respect for our first responders and all of the amazing work that they do to keep us safe and healthy in our homes, in our communities, and in our public spaces. As Councilman Lay mentioned in his remarks, the town holds numerous events throughout the year in honor and support of first responders. In fact, as Councilwoman Perella mentioned, the Bristol 4th of July Parade itself is officially known as the Military, Civic, and Firemen's Parade, an event that in both title and in the ordinary performance of it in a regular year demonstrates that there is a great display of our pride in our first responders. In fact, even some of the supporters of this petition tonight have recognized in their comments that there is regular recognition throughout the year for these admirable public servants. So ultimately, the conclusion that I draw is that these situations are completely different. The request to show support for Black people who historically have been unjustly disregarded, and to show that support during a time when their very right to live has been called into question in many places throughout this country, is a clear justification for stepping outside of our ordinary practices and customs. And although this petition has been framed as timely because it would be a recognition of the amazing efforts that these first respondents have made during the current health crisis, I think that it is easy to see that there has been a regular and laudatory recognition of the amazing work that they have done.
Adam, I've just muted you just for a moment. Your audio got very loud and distorted. I'm going to see if I can unmute you so you can finish your comment. And if not, we will come back to you so you can finish your point. I'm going to try it right now. Okay. Go ahead and try that again, please. Just finish up that comment.
Sure, thank you. Is it better now, Council Chairperson?
I'm sorry. I'm gonna go ahead and mute you again because unfortunately the audio is really bad. What I would ask that you do is maybe call back in again, and I will allow you to finish that statement. I'm sorry. I am going to now go, I'm going to go to Steve, who's next on the list. I would ask that you state your full name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Steve Anarumo. I live at 12 Monterey Drive in Bristol.
Welcome.
Welcome. And I'm calling to support the raising of the first responders flag as a tribute to those members of our community, and not to reiterate what everyone has said about that. I think it's very important that we put this flag up on the 3rd because it goes hand in hand with the celebration and the parade that we have on the 4th. And I would ask that the council take this under serious consideration and pass it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next, I'm going to go to Richard Falcone. I have unmuted you. Please state your full name and address for the record.
Good evening, Nathan. It's Richard Falcone at 10 Wendy Drive in Bristol, of course.
Welcome.
And what I'm hearing is that there is no question to anybody here that something should be done for the first responders. And the timing can't be any better than right now. As a matter of fact, it's a bit late. When we see these signs all over the country honoring the first responders, and this is a special month and a special week for Bristol, and these are special people. And they should be recognized now, regardless of any motives. It is appropriate. I think everybody agrees that it's appropriate. The timing, though, is in question. And I think the right time is now. And again, it might even be late to do this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, I'm going to go to Lero J. I'm assuming that's Joe Lero. If you could please, I just unmuted you. Please state your full name and address for the record.
Hi, Nate. Joe Lero, 6 Forest Road in Bristol. First of all, I would like to wish all of you a very happy 4th of July and a wonderful day to you and your families. I appreciate Mary Perella's remarks earlier, and I can identify with a lot of what she had to say. I come from a military family. Both my daughters and son-in-law were in the Army. They put in 6 tours of duty. And there was a period of about 8 years when my wife and I never got a full night's sleep worrying about our daughters and what was going on in Iraq and Afghanistan. And the 4th for me is a very, very sacred time. The day itself, as well as the days surrounding the 4th. And as you noted earlier, there were probably more people that come home to Bristol on the 4th than any other holiday. This is the time, this is the place to fly the flag of the first responders. And it was noted earlier that the parade is often referred to as a military, civic, and firemen's parade. And that is the reason why the flag needs to be flown now. I am in full support of flying it now. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next, I'm going to, this can't be a name, but it looks like it's Galaxy A50. So I've just unmuted you. If you could please state your name, full name and address for the record.
Hi, my name's Erin Flannery of 78 Oliver Street, Bristol, Rhode Island.
Welcome.
Thank you. I just want to say that I support Tim and Aaron's movement to honor first responders in October. First responders are super important and they deserve all the credit, but I do think given our current political climate, it is in poor taste to take down the Black Lives Matter flag at the moment, to replace it with something else, as Dashelle and Beth and many others have noted. And I think that it's unprecedented to be flying such a flag in Bristol, given Bristol's history with slavery. So I just think that at the moment, it's quite the political statement to take it down and replace it with something else. And I think there is a proper time to honor first responders, and it's not now. And that is all. I hope you all have a good evening.
Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Chairman, could we just make one point of correction, and that is we're not taking down the Black Lives Matter flag. We agreed to fly it through the end of June, just so people are aware.
Yeah, that is correct.
So that, yes, and it should also be noted for clarity that the Black Lives Matter flag was requested and flown at Town Hall, where this request is for Independence Park. Those are all town flag poles and town flag or town land. It's just important that this is not a choice. This is a separate petition. So next I'm going to go to Charlotte Griffith. I'm going to unmute you, or you need to unmute you, but if you could please state your full name and address for the record. And actually, Charlotte, before you start, I'm going to end with Adam Ramos. He's the last person with his hand raised right now. I believe that will be, we've gone through, excuse me, and heard a lot from the public. And then I will recognize the administrator. He also asked to speak. And then I will ask the council for their final thoughts and we'll take a vote. So as I said, we will go through as it's listed here, and Charlotte, I'll be with you in just one moment, and we will end with Adam Ramos so he can make his final points because we got him cut off. Charlotte, go ahead.
My name is Charlotte Griffith, and I live at 26 Burton Street. Welcome. I chose to prepare these comments because my hope is that we could work together and not only honor Black Lives Matter people and the first responders. About half my preparation was for, it repeats a lot of what everybody else is saying, so I just would like to say that I do believe that first responders need to be recognized. I think the question we haven't dealt with is why Black Flag, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay, take your time.
Why they deserve to be recognized also. And while many people came to America for the freedoms they would have here, African Americans were kidnapped and brought here by force, then sold to the highest bidder. While the Civil War supposedly freed them, Jim Crow laws kept them trapped under a whole different set of rules. When my children were small, I taught them that the policeman was their friend. Unfortunately, that message would have been much different if I had been born with black skin. Also, the pandemic has increased our awareness that the availability and quality of healthcare has been affected by the color of our skin.
Charlotte, I'm sorry, Charlotte, if I may. I've done this with others who've called in. I ask that you stay on point to this specific petition, which is whether or not we should fly the first responders flag. And although as I've said this to others, is as this, your comments are related to the previous flag that was flown. That is not the petition that is in front of us. So I ask that you stay on point in regards to your thoughts on whether or not first responders should be flown or not. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
I do think it's important if we're looking at the merits of why flags are flown, that we consider the 400 years or so of history where people have not been treated equally. And I think Bristol has the opportunity here to demonstrate that we can stand strongly behind them and honor other worthy causes as well. And that makes it a real win-win event.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments. Next, I'm going to go to a telephone number, which is 210-383-5345. If you could please state your full name and address. Hold on. Full name and address for the record. Go ahead. Hello? We can't hear you.
Nathan, can you hear me?
Now we can. Go ahead.
Okay, my name's Carl Antonovich. I live in Bristol, 1215 Hope Street.
Welcome.
And, I'm a commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Post 237, 850 Hope Street. What I'd like to say, first of all, is I'm in this nice group of people, Bristol County Concerned Citizens, and not everybody in the VFW is a member. We have about a dozen that are members.
Carl, I'm going to ask
Yes.
you to stop just for one moment. You are kind of fading in and out. I'm not sure if you're moving your phone. Go ahead and continue.
Okay. All right. So anyway, I'm in the Veterans of Foreign Wars here. We have 155 members. And there's probably about 6 or 7 of us that are in this Bristol County Concerned Citizens. None of us are racist. This is a very good group. And I have been full support of raising this first responders flag, because a couple times a year I have to ride this rescue in town, and they are terrific. And I've used it about 5 or 6 times already. My wife had a stroke 2 months ago, and during that pandemic, and they picked her up, and they were terrific. The police are terrific. Everybody in this town that serves this town is terrific. So I think it's a good time for us to raise this flag.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, so I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to go to Tracy Ramos. You need to unmute. If you could state your full name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Tracy Ramos, and I live at 116 Bayview Avenue. I am, thank you for allowing comment here. I am calling to state my support for Councilman Smeedy and Councilman Lay's recommendation to move the petitioner's request to October. Many people have spoken before me, and I think respectfully, I think that difficult times like what we are facing as a nation, as it relates both to race and to the public health crisis that we're faced with today, locally and nationally, it is incumbent upon our leaders to use their judgment to really understand the context in which you're making decisions. And so it is very clear to me that the petitioner bringing this recommendation on the heels of the last council meeting, where the petitioner specifically, as I believe it was Beth pointed out, that raising a flag is a feel-good issue or a feel-good statement. I fully support first responders. There's nobody on this call or probably in this town that would say that they do not. And there is an opportunity, many opportunities to support these folks and to state our appreciation for them, and I know that we all do. I would ask that you look and make your decisions and your vote based on your judgment, not just on your respect for the first responders, but also with respect to the context in which you're leading this town. It would diminish. I believe that the attempt is to diminish what Deshelle Palmer did and what Roberto and Keelan Philippe did in the last council meeting. I believe that it's an attempt to do that, and I'm terribly disappointed, because I do think that first responders deserve a very clear statement and a very clear motion by the town and by its leaders. And the time to do that is separate and apart from this racial situation that we're finding ourselves in and facing truly as a nation and certainly as a town here in Bristol. So I oppose the petition at this time. I strongly urge you to raise a flag in support of these folks in October.
Thank you for your comments. Next, I'm going to go to Bob Campanella. I have, you need to unmute yourself. You could please state your full name and address for the record. Bob, we can't hear you. You need to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Bob Campanella, 4 Leyland Court in Bristol.
Welcome.
I would just like to express my support for the first responders flag. And I think it's the least we can do to honor these people that put their lives at risk every day. And that's all I have to say. I have no political agenda by stating those comments.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Next, I'm going to go to telephone number 845-802-3386. I'm going to mute you just for a moment because there's lots of feedback coming from you. I'm not sure if you've Got your speaker too loud. I'm going to go ahead and please bear with me just one moment. Okay, I've unmuted you. Try that again, please. If you could state your full name and address for the record.
My name is Dave Scarpino, and I live at 932 Hope Street in Bristol.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I apologize for the static.
Not at all.
I support the raising of the flag, and I think I'm going to make 2 points. One being the 4th of July is a perfect time to do this because it's a holiday in which not only is a town full of people who reflect on the past, reflect on the founders, but when we look at the founders, what do we see? People who put service before self. And that's what the first responders do. I was in healthcare for 50 years, and I retired as a CEO of a hospital system. And I witnessed every single day, first responders, day and night, no matter what the crisis, they're the first people at the scene. They're between you and life and death. And I think they do a great job. If you're looking at October 28th, which I think is a very nice day, but it's a Wednesday. It gets dark early. It's a couple of days before Election Day. So you talk about a provocative time. I'm not sure October 28th really cuts it. And I think, and I'm not part of Concerned Citizens. I'm a person who believes in, I'm going to give you an example. If you've ever run a marathon, when you get to mile 18, you need people cheering you on, not after you finish the race. It's nice to congratulate you when the race is done, but when you're in the middle of the race, it's critically important that people are there cheering you on. And these first responders need that boost right now. They need to know we support them, and I can't think of a better time than July 3rd to do it. So I fully support it. And one last thing, I think it is so wrong for all of the callers, all the people on here who are reading into the minds of the organizers. I don't know what's in their minds. I think it's a nice gesture, but to imply that they're taking advantage, diminishing BLM, or doing this because they're racist is absolutely wrong. And I thank you for stopping it. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. So we, as I mentioned, we were going to stop with Adam, but it was Keith Maloney was next. And Chris, if you could help me, because I don't see Keith there, but I know he's there. If you could unmute Keith. Chris is helping me with that. Keith, if you could state your full name and address for the record. You need to unmute, please. We can't hear you yet.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council and everyone who is participating in this discussion.
Keith, I'm going to stop and make sure that you state your full name and address for the record, please.
Sorry. Keith Maloney of 72 Griswold Avenue, Bristol, Rhode Island.
Thank you. Welcome.
And I thank you and the council and everyone who's participated to this point. I kind of want to address one comment back to, I think his name was Troy Kennedy, who is in support of the motion and kind of made a comment that he objected to Black Lives Matter because of what it stood for. And I just direct everyone to go back to the June 25th issue of the Bristol Phoenix and see the mission statement of the group that has made this proposal. And it talks about being pro-life and in favor of charter schools and in favor of the right to keep and bear arms. And I'd like to know what any of that has to do with first responders. I mean, those are very politically charged issues, very politically charged issues. And yet they shroud themselves in this issue of recognizing first responders who no one on this meeting, on this Zoom meeting, has said anything but wonderful things for. We love our first responders. They deserve anything and everything that we can do to recognize them. But to cloak a political campaign in this manner is just very transparent. Interesting that all three who voted negatively on the Black Lives Matter flag happen to be the leaders of this effort to fly a flag for the first responders. Isn't that interesting? Just those three folks. Interesting. Well, I leave it to your very good judgment, Mr. Chairman and Town Council, as to how you proceed with this. I make one very strong recommendation. This group has asked for this flag to fly over Independence Park. You made that point earlier. Black Lives Flag Matter was flown over Town Hall. That's where this flag should be flown if you choose to fly it, not at Independence Park. If we as a town have a policy on flying flags that are not the United States of America flag or the state of Rhode Island flag, it should be consistent, and that should be on the Town Hall flag. And I'll finish by saying that I too am a veteran, and I served in the military in America and overseas. Left my wife alone with a child. So this stuff of cloaking it all in, military garb, that this is a good thing, that's also just a red herring. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. And as been mentioned earlier a couple of times about multiple thank yous, I will say again on behalf of this council and the town to thank you to you and all of our veterans for what you do and what you continue to do for this country. I am going to end with Aaron. Aaron, Adam. I apologize, Adam Ramus. I'm going to allow you to complete that thought that you were in the middle of before digital got in the way. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I apologize for the audio difficulties earlier. I would just like to close by urging the council to reject the notion that the petition before them presents a choice between showing support for first responders or not. Our support for first responders is not diminished by making a decision not to fly a flag for them at this time. We have demonstrated and continue to demonstrate how we as a town support these amazing individuals and the work they do individually and collectively. The motion made by Councilman Sweeney and seconded and supported by Councilman Lay presents an excellent path forward. We should take the opportunity to use the time that has already been set aside by our federal government to provide our first responders with a grand recognition in an honored and respectful way. And more important, and equally importantly, in a way that does not undercut the critical step that this town council took when it made the decision to fly the Black Lives Matter flag in a signal of support for Black lives who so often have not felt the support of their government around in various places around this country. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you to all the first responders who do so much good work for our town and for the state and for the country. And I urge you to approve the motion made by Councilman Sweeney and fly this flag in conjunction with the National First Responders Day in October.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. I am going to recognize the administrator. I'm asking him to unmute. And then I'm going to open it up after the administrator comments to the council for their thoughts. And we'll take the Mr. Administrator.
Thank you. Chairman, I'd first like to wish everyone a happy 4th of July.
I didn't get you that opportunity. I'm sorry. So I'll give the clerk the same opportunity too. So go ahead.
We should have a good day. And one thing I'm hopeful for is that we'll all recognize our nation's flag. And that's the one thing in our speeches every year that says keeps us together, our national flag, the Stars and Stripes. And hopefully we can have some pride on 4th of July. And so the comment I wanted to make was And I think it's important that you hear from the administrator, because I do work with our departments, our first responders, on a daily basis. And what I would like to counter is the argument that now is not the time to do it. We have time in October. No, now is the time. This has been unprecedented. There is a strain on our departments. It has been for several months. And I think it's a good, strong, solid message to those that are considering their careers, or those that may be considering going into public safety, that your community is behind you. Think back where you were as council members. Some of you may have been in the safety and security of your homes during this, but I will attest that our first responders, every single one of them on the police department, their time was canceled, time off was canceled, and they were at work. Our volunteer firefighters and EMTs were going into homes with police officers with confirmed later COVID-19 cases. These are people that have families that are dedicated to our community. They're there when you need them. They're there for protests. They're there for civil unrest. And I don't have, up until now, I've never had a doubt in my mind that the town of Bristol was behind them. And that's why they do it. So I'm not sure what the motives are, but you have to think as council members, what is the matter at hand? What is the matter at hand tonight? And what message are you sending if you don't allow this flag to be raised? I looked at the flag. It has different colored stripes, and they represent nursing, dispatches. These are critical people. The best that we have stay neutral, and they are going to respond. I have a great deal of respect for them. I know you all do also. And I just urge you that you vote at the matter at hand. What's put in front of you? Should we hang this flag during this critical time in our nation? That's the question. So with that, I appreciate you yielding a few minutes for me. Thanks again.
You got it. Council?
Mr. Chairman?
Tony, go ahead.
If I may, initially I was thinking, why not? Why not wait until October? Then the more I think about it, and actually based on a comment made by Councilman Lay, that, we have all these opportunities to celebrate, and appreciate their efforts. Unfortunately, this year, the Firemen's Memorial in EMS service was cut very short. They were very cheated out of the event this year. As you know, we had to be with face masks. It was reduced only to the captains of the departments. So all of the firefighters in the Lady Auxiliary and EMS service, they were prevented from being there because obviously due to the circumstances. So if any time is the time, this is the time to really let them know how much we appreciate them. And more so the fact that we don't have per se a 4th of July parade this year. They don't have to be as committed. They certainly would have the opportunity to come out and enjoy this and join in as well, to show the appreciation. Because as the administrator pointed out, I know what it takes, in the tough times, and here it is, the time to do it. And by the way, first responders come in all colors and shapes and from all ethnic backgrounds. And I can attest to that. I have 4 of my own children in the service. Thank you. So actually, I would like to move that we actually entertain this to allow them to display the flag from July 13th through July 17th, Friday, July 17th.
So this council, Mary, I can see you talking, but we can't hear you. So there is a motion and a second on the floor. This council is typically not considered secondary motions. We can. Robert's rules allows such things. I'm open either way to it. I would ask my colleagues, interestingly enough, we talk about precedents. This would be another precedent. I would personally, and Tony, I'm asking you directly because you were asking to make that secondary motion. That it's up to you. I would like to vote on the motion on the floor, as we have. Our past practice has been that way. And if the motion passes, then the motion passes. If the motion fails, there could be a new motion on the floor. But Robert's rules does allow to amend the motion, and we can vote on that amended motion. If that fails, then the primary motion, I mean, so it does get, you know, we did it at JFC. So I don't want to get mixed up in too much process, but I talk to my colleagues. If you're interested in considering such a thing, we can have an amended motion voted on and seconded. We can go through all of that. And if it sounds like I'm trying to say, please not, I am trying to say, please not. I've been clear and I'm hearing, it feels like we're going in a certain direction. But I defer to my colleagues. What's your thoughts? Would you like to consider moving forward an amended motion and vote on that? Or would you like to follow the policy that we have? And my goodness, is this loaded, ladies and gentlemen. So, because it starts a whole new thing. So go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, it's Aaron Lane calling. And since we did have the discussion about process, and we are trying to make this as much like the last vote as we possibly can, let's go ahead and follow the same process that we did last time. Let's call the vote. And if the vote doesn't go, and then it sounds to me like if obviously, Mr. Chairman, if you're amenable to it, that maybe perhaps Mr. Texera, Councilman Texera, could put his motion forward. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
It is. And our past practice has been to have one motion on the floor, vote on it. If it does fail or passes, we take the next step. It doesn't need to be that way. And I personally would prefer, and again, Tony, I'm talking to you directly on this because you're proposing it. I would prefer to stay in the vein that we have in the past, because I believe what I would ask my colleagues is that we continue down this road too, is that moving forward from today, that we continue in our past practice. I think it's worked out well for us, and I believe that this council has done a great job in talking about our concerns with a particular issue, and then we figure out if we can adjust those things before the final motion is made. Tony, it's up to you.
I'm agreeable to that. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Other discussion? No? Okay, my 2 cents is not just 2 cents, it's a lot of cents. I heard a couple of things this evening, and I'm going to sum it up by calling it, I heard a binary choice. I heard a choice is supporting this is not supporting something else, and I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I also believe that there is no need to be in one camp or another camp. I believe that we have an opportunity in things like this to continue, not to forge new ground, but to continue what this council, have done in the past. And whether you are extremely liberal or extremely conservative, we stand close enough that we can shake each other's hands. And when we go too far, or when we tell people that you need to be on one side or another, I think we foster that divide even more. So I do not believe, however this council decides to vote, that this is a choice that you won or you lost. And I do not believe there should be a side here. I believe that colleagues feel a way, and they have all the right in the world to do that, and they should speak their mind accordingly. But at the end of this vote, as we've talked about many times, however we end up, town business still needs to continue, and we need to look at each other and the residents of Bristol and say, this is how we conduct business. We do it respectfully. And at the end of that conversation, we look at each other as colleagues and friends and neighbors. This crapola, ladies and gentlemen, has got to stop. We're better than this. And pretending there's an issue here when there is not is just a waste of everybody's time and effort. I'm almost done. I have taken too much of my life with the amount of energy that's been put into this. This council chose unanimously to support Black Lives Matter flag being flown, unanimously. We had a lot of dialogue about it, and we got to a place where we said, we're gonna put these things aside that we disagree with and we support. In this instance, our question in front of us is, do we support first responders, and can we put a flag up on July 3rd? Stop. Anything else that you're adding to this dialogue is your addition, not the request. And anything that you are making implications or suggestions about the people that are part of this group, stop it. I know a lot of these people. I like a lot of these people. You like a lot of these people. You may not agree with everything, and it's okay, but we got to stop saying these people. These are our neighbors. These are people that you and I represent on a daily basis. And we need to get past this stuff. And how we do that, I was talking, I'm almost done, with my kids a couple of days ago, and we were talking about the Black Lives Matter flag. We talked about all things going on. And I said, you know how you change it? It's 3 feet. When you see somebody that is a different color or a different look or a different anything, you smile. And you are engaging and you put your hand up. Not right now, nobody can shake anybody's hands, I get it. But you understand the point. This is how we change it. It's our 3-foot rule. It's not this. I think we should support this. I'm very clear on that. And I also appreciate and respect my colleagues for not wanting to support it. And they've been clear. And I appreciate and give them all the respect for stating their point in view. So if there's nothing else, and I did take too long, I apologize. Would my colleagues like to share anything else before I ask for a vote?
Can I just make one-
Mr. Chairman. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to say, this is Mary. I think a lot of people summed it up really well. I think Francis Betancourt, Dave Scarpino, I think he summed it up so well when he said, it's like the marathon, and you know, it doesn't matter if you're cheering at the beginning or at the end, but when you're really pushing uphill, and we know we've got another whole potential surge coming or another round of coronavirus. I think that was such a great way to phrase it. I think our administrator, Steve, did a great job, and, and Nathan, to you as well. You summed it up really, really well. I mean, there's a lot of divisiveness that has come over this. A lot of people who are assuming intentions. Maybe they're accurate, maybe they're not, but I don't feel that this diminishes our commitment to inclusion, to you know, equity, or embracing all people of all faiths and races in Bristol. I don't think it diminishes that. I know people are trying to make that point. It just so happens that this happens to be July 3rd in a relatively quiet year. As I said earlier at the meeting, and I think Tony, you said the same thing, this is a sort of unprecedented in so many ways, but our first responders would never have 2 seconds to even know this was happening in a regular year, because they would be so incredibly busy. So I think it's a great, I don't think it's a huge, I don't think it's insulting to anyone. I think that we can do more than one thing and support more than one cause. And so I agree that we should take the opportunity to support our first responders. And I'm very happy that the particular flag, like I said earlier, wasn't really looking at it, really looked at them all, you know, incorporates the nurses and the doctors, because people lived in their basements, they lived in their garages, they lived, and they still are, you know, and they probably will go back to this in the fall, and who knows, maybe in the winter, to make sure that they could be on the front lines and still keep their children and their families safe. And, you know, so people deserve a tremendous amount of credit for everything that they're doing. And if we can cheer them on to make sure that they know that we care, then I think we should do it. So while I will probably vote no on Tim's motion, I would certainly support it for also doing something in October. Certainly not on a Wednesday afternoon, however, you know, but, you know, I just think the more times we can thank people that do this incredibly hard job, the better.
Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say that, you know, I respect everybody on the call tonight, and my intentions for October was not to drag the first responders into anything that was misconstrued as like something political. I was feeling that undercurrent. So that was my intention, because I think we are all in agreement that we want to respect them and we want to take care of them. And I think there is a way that we can celebrate, and we could do both. you know, and I really do think we can all come together. I think in this country, we're so divided and it's either my way or the highway. And I don't think we need to do that anymore. I think we tonight working together, we can come to an agreement and take care of our first responders and take care of our community in the same way. It's a loud message. So I just want to say that piece.
Is there any other conversation?
Well, I just want to reiterate that point, Mr. Chairman. This is Aaron Lay speaking. You know, this is not about whether or not we're supporting first responders. I think everybody knows that. And I didn't fall off the back of a turnip truck when I came over here. This is, to me, I think I see what's happening, and I'm not necessarily sure it's something that I can endorse. I'll certainly vote on this measure right here. I think that I think it's the way to go. I think that it continues to allow people to heal. And I think it's also worth pointing out, I've heard a lot of people cite their military experience. I have military experience myself. I was a military police officer. I served during a time where our country was mobilized for war. And not once did we ever ask people to do anything to give us the instant gratification to support the type of work that we did. We did it because we sacrificed. And I'm not saying that the sacrifices don't need to be recognized right now, but I certainly would have been a little bit upset, given my service background, if the optics of dragging me into the middle of something like this would have happened. And so that's where I stand on it. I think it's very important that everybody knows where I stand on this issue. You might not agree with me at all, but I think it's really important that everybody knows where I stand on this issue, because I believe firmly that we need to be awfully careful about how we do this. Thank you.
Is there any other conversation? Okay. So there's a motion on the floor made by Tim, seconded by Aaron, to approve the flying of the flag, but not on the requested day. It would be on October 28th. And Tim, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear, or maybe it wasn't part of your motion. Was there a time frame that you were proposing? Was it for that day?
I was going to do the month, and I was hoping to include in a ceremony and that sort of thing, but I wanted to have some more dialogue with you guys on it and just sort of, you know, give the first responders a classic ceremony, Bristol style.
So can I take that as your motion is for the month of October?
Correct.
Okay, all right. And so, and Aaron, that is seconded by you?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to fly the flag for the month of October, the first responders flag for the month of October, seconded by Aaron. Is there any other discussion?
Can I just make a quick point? I just want to be clear, because you want to do it in October instead of July 3rd, not in, I know that's what your intent is. So I just want to make it clear, because we could do both.
Right.
But your motion is not to do it now, to postpone it until October.
That is his motion, correct, Tim?
I think listening tonight to everybody and listening to my community, and I think my motion, you know, to fly it in October, and if we fly it on the 3rd, would send a strong signal of a solidarity with the first responders, and also that we are we care very deeply about them. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry if my motion was not clear.
So could you please? So I'm so sorry. I'm not clear. So I'm hearing that your motion was for the month of October solely.
It was originally it was solely for the month of October. Correct. Yep.
And it is still the month of October, or have you amended that?
But I will definitely amend it to include July 3rd.
Okay. Aaron, is there a second?
My understanding, Mr. Chairman, is that we were going to go forward with the vote on October. And then if that fails, then Tony had mentioned that he wanted to perhaps put forward a motion that included July.
So the motion on the floor currently is to fly the flag, the first responders flag, for the month of October. That was, and Tim is making that motion. He amended his own motion, so that's not an amended motion from another counselor. So he's got the right to do that. So if that is his motion, the motion currently on the floor is to fly the flag for the month of October. And I want to confirm with you, Aaron, that you're seconding it as
For the month of October, yes, yes.
I'm so sorry I hear that and I second it. I must ask you this, is that if the justification was for a particular day, then where is the justification for October 1st and 2nd? I'm sorry, I heard that we were focusing on all that. I don't need you to respond to it. For myself, I want, if it was for that day, now we've gone off on other days that are less significant, if you will, in regards to that argument. But I'll tell you what, we have a motion and a second on the floor. We don't need to go through all of this. That motion is to fly for the month of October. That is the first responders flag at the Independence Park, one of the flagpoles designated by the council at Independence Park. And it is a 3x5 flag. And Tim, stop me anywhere you disagree with this. It's a 3x5 flag. And it is provided by the petitioner, and the expectation that if anything happens to the flag in weather or such and so forth, that is not the responsibility of the town. And that is most similar to the motion that was made a few weeks ago in regards to flying the Black Lives Matter flag. Does anybody disagree with that? Tim, primarily because it's your motion. So does that make sense to you? Okay. And Aaron, you seconded that. All right. So we have a motion and a second. I won't state it again. Tim?
Aye.
And Aaron?
Aye.
Tony? Nay? Did I hear nay?
Yes.
Okay. Mary?
Nay.
I also vote against, so the motion fails. What is this council's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Tony, you just muted yourself.
You just muted yourself.
many buttons here. Okay. I would propose the motion to fly the flag from starting July 3rd through Friday, July the 17th.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary to fly the first responders flag. I won't go through everything else again. I'm assuming same size, same place. All that. Okay. All right. So July 3rd through July 17th. And then that was seconded by Mary. Discussion?
Can I just ask a quick question? If we wanted to do something in October on first respond, like a weekend around that first responders day, we don't really need to, we can just do it. That's what we do for our, like our firefighters and our police. We just have a group that would put something together. Am I correct? We don't have to come back and have a discussion on putting the flag, that flag up again. Am I correct?
Well, that would truly depend on how this council feels about the flag policy. Yes, we're going to talk about flags again shortly. So it would depend on how we do and what we decide on that part of it. But currently, as it sits, yes, we could. Depends on what this council decides further down the agenda.
The only reason I'm asking is that I'm wondering if this motion should incorporate that we will plan an event in October. And I don't think it needs to be flown the whole month of October. If it's going to be flown several weeks in October, I would do it more from like either the weekend before or the weekend after, whatever is the day we're able to put something together. And then to do it maybe through mid-November where you're encompassing Veterans Day and et cetera. So that's, you know, I don't know if that should be just separate down the road, like we don't need to address that right now, but that is, you know, in this motion, just go forward with this motion.
May I say that the spirit of the request is noble. The flag policy that we're going to consider, and I don't want to go too far down the agenda road, may make that null and void. So I would ask, unless there is a request to amend this current motion on the floor for July 3rd through July 17th. Again, I understand the spirit behind it, Mary, but I believe it will get in our way if moving forward. So, all right, any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to, what's up?
This is Aaron. I'm just doing that for the people who are on the call. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm still getting even used to the Zoom.
Okay.
I just wanted to, again, reiterate the point that I made earlier that this is very much, I support the work of the first responders. I'm happy to have voted for the raising of the first responders flag on the previous motion. Unfortunately, I am going to vote against this because I just do not think, I'm worried about what this looks like. And that's the reason why I'll be voting against it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Of course. Any other discussion? So we have a motion and a second for July 3rd through July 17th. I won't state the rest. Tim?
And I want to just say that I'm voting this because I care about your first responders. I want us to do the right thing. Aye.
Aaron?
Nay.
Tony?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And I also vote aye, so that is a 4-1. The motion carries. I'm going to just take a moment to thank all of you for the respectful conversation and to the public for its respectful conversation. I said this last time, I'll say it again on behalf of the council. We expected nothing less, and that's what we received, so thank you. So, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council. The next item is item G1, and this is correspondence from Elizabeth Brito, the Chair of the Rogers Free Library Board of Trustees, recommending the appointment of Beverly Larson to fill a vacancy.
So if you all recall, at our last time, it's not our last meeting, going back a little bit, we appointed Ruth Sudo to the board, who, by the way, was an excellent appointment, like all of our appointments previous to that. And I had said that I was hoping for some additional information moving forward, so this council knew who was applying for the position. And I wanted to say for the record that Betty Brito had called me in regards to library-related issue or a library-related question. And I meant to call her back, but I did not. So her attempt was there to contact me to discuss this, but it failed on my end of things. So for that, I apologize. And I know Betty's on the call. I asked her, and actually she offered to share a little bit about the proposed Library Board of Trustees member. So Betty, are you on the call? I'm going to see if I can find you here and see if I can unmute you, or Chris, if you beat me to it, go ahead. Yep, there she is. So, hi Betty. Can you hear me? Hello, Betty?
Mr. Chairman, it looks like Betty's device does not have audio to it. I don't know if she perhaps called in on one of the phone numbers.
I have no way to figure that out, unfortunately. So,
Betty, if you're listening and you have your phone, if you can press *9, or looks like you just turned on your audio.
Okay. Sorry.
we can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay.
Outstanding. So Betty, could you share a bit about this potential new Board of Trustees member?
Certainly. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Yes, let me just give you a little background on how this appointment came about. We had interviewed 3 candidates at the point in time when we had an opening back in November of 2019. And this was to replace a vacancy at that time. All 3 candidates were excellent. Each candidate brought to the library qualities and skills that the library either needed at the very time we were interviewing them, or we knew we would need for the future. So we appointed Ruth Sudo to fill the first vacancy that existed. But the trustees, after that appointment, discussed the fact that these other 2 candidates also had qualities that we knew we were going to need. And since we knew at that time that there were going to be 2 more openings on the trustees come January of 2021, we decided to go ahead and make the next 2 candidates in line our recommendations to fill those upcoming vacancies. So unexpectedly, Dr. Arruda submitted his resignation to us in June. So that created an immediate need to fill a vacancy. So we took the first name off of our list, and that is Beverly Larson. And we are recommending that Beverly be appointed as a trustee of the Rogers Free Library to begin immediately. Beverly brings to this position a lot of experience with strategic planning. And as the council knows, we engaged in a long-term strategic plan that is due to expire, if you will, in 2022. So we are in need of someone with experience in that area. She also brings to us lots of experience with communication and working with stakeholders. And she believes, she expressed to us the philosophy that she believes the libraries need to stay relevant is critical. And that libraries play a significant role in society. So it's for those reasons that we bring her nomination forward.
Thank you, Betty. And just for clarity, you'd mentioned that the 2 other applicants, when will those positions, I'm sorry if you said it, I missed it. When will those 2 positions be
Vacant.
filled? Vacant.
Yeah. January 2021, there will be 2 positions open. So we have already vetted and voted we have a candidate to fill one of those 2 positions, but we will now need to make an announcement, a press release of sorts, to invite people to apply for the other vacancy.
Thank you. So my colleagues, what's your pleasure in regards to this appointment?
I move that we accept the recommendation of the Rogers Free Library to appoint Beverly Larson to their board.
I'll second the motion.
So motion made by Mary to appoint Beverly Larson, seconded by Tim. Discussion? Tim?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
I also say aye. Motion carries. Congratulations and thank you for the information, Betty.
Thank you very much.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item I1, and this is something put on the agenda at the request of the chairman regarding a Town of Bristol flag policy.
Well, look at that. We're talking about flags again. How outstanding. This was, as you all recall, conversation from our last meeting and how relevant it could be at this moment, right? So the goal behind this policy, and by the way, thank you to the solicitor, thank you to the clerk, thank you to the administrator, and to all in a moment for your comments and information. It was from them that this policy was put in place. Primarily, the solicitor was kind enough to make sure it passed muster, if you will. I'd like to just, if I may, hit some of the highlights of it, if you will, or some of the, I think, the most important points. It talks about a consistent policy, and we've never had a policy. We don't have to go through that right now. We didn't need one before, and it's appropriate that we have one now. This policy talks about a timeline of 24 hours, and that would be up to this council, but the policy would say that a flag would be flown for 24 hours. It says that it would be a federally recognized flag, and an example of a federally recognized flag would include Stars and Stripes, of course, state flags, local flags, POW, MIA. Those are not the only ones, and in fact, Councilman Lay had reached out to me a little bit earlier and asked just for some clarity in regards to a federally recognized flag, and he gave an example, and I don't want I don't think I need to re-say it, but I did reach out to the solicitor, and Andy, if you could just kind of elaborate a little bit more if I missed something or if there was something more that we needed to share on that.
This is Andy Tights. Not particularly. I mean, example would be the POWMIA flag. That's an official flag. It's set forth in the code of what it is. That's an example of an official flag. The United States flag, the naval ensign, if you will, flag, which is a substitute for the national flag. Those are the sort of flags, as well as we've described in the ordinance, flags of recognized foreign countries, state flags, territorial flags, etc.
So an example of a sovereign nation flag would be Portugal, right? We've flown the Portuguese flag multiple times. The Armenian flag, we get a petition every year to recognize the genocide. I was going to say celebrate, and my goodness, I did not mean that at all. But we get those requests. One of the key points, I believe, is that there's a minimum, at least in this current policy, of 100 signatures, and those would need to be verified as residents of Bristol and voting members of Bristol. Why voting? The clerk pointed out to me that that is the easiest way to verify and the most complete way to verify that you are a resident of Bristol. Side note in regards to being a registered voter, when you vote, of course, you have to do it way before an election. You can register to vote right away and be able to sign a petition pretty quickly. So I don't believe that would be in the way of success if someone were to petition this council. And I would ask my colleagues to reflect. I know you've all read it and looked at it. Was there anything else that you wanted to point out?
Mr. Chairman, this is Tim. I think it's a great policy. Thank you for everybody involved on their work on this. Just to your point on the 100 qualified residents that need to sign the petition, I was just throwing it out to my colleagues. I think that number is a little low. And I didn't know what you guys thought about 500 and making sure, because today with technology and everything, getting 100 signatures is quite quick, and I think it's important that we really understand we have more residents involved in the signing of this petition. But I just wanted to get your.
I would answer that, Tim, and say that the amount of time we just spent talking about flags would tell you how much significance they can potentially have. For myself, I would absolutely support a larger number. So if this council felt that it was appropriate to increase that number, the reason why 100, it seemed to be a bar that was significant and that it would show support, but I am absolutely unopposed to a larger number. I'm open to conversation, and I'll ask Mary, you had your hand up, so I'm gonna call on you next.
Thank you. So I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. So it would only be federally recognized flags. So no other flags of any of these others that, there was one email we got that kind of went through each month almost and suggested flags that we could fly in addition for various causes. My one question, I'm not sure how I feel about the signatures issue, but for example, and I don't know if this is covered somewhere else, I don't seem to see it quickly when I was looking at it. So in the legislature, for example, and it may not happen any longer, but when I was there many years ago, the Armenian genocide issue would be supported there, and that flag would be flying over the state, and it probably would be a resolution in the legislature to allow that. I think they also did Greek Independence Day, for example. If there's already a legislative resolution, would people still have to get signatures to put it on our for us? I mean, so like continuing with the Armenian genocide, because that's one that has been sort of historically done. Would those people now have to get 100, 200, 500 signatures, or is it because it would be sort of recognized at the state level? I mean, is there some language that could be inserted in here that says unless the legislature has already recognized it and is flying it over the state capitol, for example?
Personally, Mary, I think that I see The Armenian flag example is a great one. And unfortunately, I believe that that would be collateral damage to this policy. I believe I think that it should be this policy with no exception. And the rationale behind it is that I don't think there should be some wiggle room in it. I think it should just be those flags, because the amount of conversation that we've had recently about important topics, I think there's important topics on other things that none of us are considering at the moment. And I believe that this gets rid of that possibility. I don't believe I think our local flagpole should be used for these state and local. But we didn't have a policy previously. And I don't regret everything that we've done. I think it was appropriate. But moving forward, I think this is a great way to make sure that we stay in a very clear path, and that we're not picking a particular whatever. And again, I'm not downplaying anything that we've done already. So that's my personal opinion. So
could I just follow up on one thing then?
Sure, of course.
If it's going to be very narrowly defined as the federally recognized flags, then what is the purpose of the signatures?
The purpose of the signatures is that if there is a request to do such a thing, that there is overwhelming support to take the next step. I believe that's what the purpose of that was my rationale behind it. But again, this is the council's policy. So if we disagree with that, it's okay. We can take another step if we so choose. So.
I'm only trying to figure out the limits of the federally recognized flag. If that's all you could do, and there's only say a handful of them, say the military, the branch, I don't know what they are, but the branch of the military, whatever.
I understand your point.
To put them up, then why would you need, say, 500 signatures if there's only maybe, so the Marine Corps' 100, whatever anniversary asked to fly the flag, but it's a federally recognized flag. I don't even know if it is, but I'm just hypothetically. Then do we have to have the 500 or 100 or whatever number of signatures to do that? I mean, I guess it depends how narrowly defined the federally recognized flag is. That's all I'm asking. I mean, I don't, either way, it's not going to sway my decision. I understand the point. I just was curious about I was curious about the legislative aspect. And then I was also curious about the federal definition of a federally recognized flag. And then that leads to the qualified signatures.
Please.
Mr. Chairman, can I just weigh in? Is that okay?
Go ahead.
The way that I've been kind of thinking about it, and I talked with you about this, Mr. Chairman, is that when we raise a flag and, uplift something like that, it should be part of a broader dialogue. And so let's say that, the individual wants to come and raise the Armenian flag. Every year, this individual comes before the town council. We don't talk about it. It gets unanimously passed. Not really all that much is said about the Armenian genocide, all that much. But if it requires signatures, then what it requires the individual to do is to go over to the post office and educate people about the importance of flying the Armenian genocide flag, or the importance of, whatever, flag is kind of important for this purpose or that purpose. And so that's the way that I see it. And for that purpose, I think 500 is a little bit high. I was thinking a little bit more in the 250 range. I think that requires a little bit more, effort to do something like
we just did. We just negotiated and we met in the middle. That was absolutely wonderful. So.
Well, that's the number I had in my mind, because I thought 100 was always a little bit low, Mr. Chairman. And I just thought that, raising it up a little bit just so the dialogue is happening, then that would probably fulfill some of the goals I think we have with this flag policy. That's all I have for this. Thank you.
Mr. Administrator?
I just want a clarification. This is for a third-party request. This isn't for traditional events that are municipally sanctioned. For example, Fireman's Memorial Sunday, you may see a fire memorial flag on a town flagpole. If the Navy band is playing a concert, you may see a Navy flag on one of our flagpoles. So we still reserve that right to to display flags that are authorized by the town, this is for third-party requests that would require the signatures.
I agree, absolutely. Tony?
I know Councilman Lane must have been looking at my paper. Could you see that, the 250? Now, is there such a thing as a state, what do you call it? State recognized flags? No, not really.
I'm not aware of it. The rationale behind the federal was to keep it more simplistic. I know it doesn't feel that way at the moment, but it was to keep it as simple and more well, simplistic. So.
Well, I have just one more quick point on number 5. It says the town flagpole sought to be utilized. So is the requester asking specifically what pole this flag is going to be, or are we going to determine where those flags should fly, period, rather than have this, okay, well, last time was here, and this time is there, and so forth. You know, should we determine where the flag should fly, you know, rather than allow for all that variance?
I think it's an outstanding point. I think we should, obviously we ultimately have the say, but why ask a question that you're ultimately may change? So we could change that to reflect that the flagpole would be determined, not ask the question, and it would be determined by the council. Great point. So I've heard so far 250 signatures, and I know we had a little bit of discussion about that. I've heard that we want to change it so that the applicant wouldn't ask which flagpole, the council would make that determination what it felt appropriate. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to clarify with one last thing, because I remember we did have a constituent that brought it up, that there was concern, and I think what the administrator had said about having a municipally sanctioned flag will resolve this issue that I'm going to bring up. But let's say that Mount Hope High School wins a football championship or something like that, then as the town we'll still be able to raise that flag as a town, even though the Mount Hope High School flag is not federally recognized.
So the town has that ultimate right, and I know the solicitor is listening. This is, as was pointed out already, this isn't a request for the council to have, or the town ultimately, to have a flag flown, but like those events, it was never considered as part of the policy. Those things should happen and will happen. And again, I'll remind this council, this is totally up to us. So it's part of this conversation. We can make sure that that is reserved for high school events, such as already mentioned. As the administrator said, special fire events, all of those things are appropriate and right. In my head, when I ask my colleagues to weigh in if they feel otherwise. Okay, so I think we're clear on it. So I would ask for a motion that would.
Mr. Chairman?
Certainly, go ahead.
This is Andy Tights, solicitor, but before you ask for a motion, may I suggest some amendment language,
please,
from whoever might want to make the motion. In addition to what you talked about in number 2 of changing that from the number 100 to the number 250, as you've just been talking about, may I suggest perhaps changing the name of this to the Town of Bristol Public Request Flag Policy, and adding the following sentence at the end of the very first paragraph. Other flags may be flown from time to time for specific events at the discretion of the town administrator. That way we would have that officially in there. There wouldn't be a question as to what was allowed or not, that this is for public requests rather than the administrator's discretion.
Okay, so I'm wondering this, is that because it'll be a policy, what we do has long implications. Maybe it should be in a way that says that there was a couple of examples that I thought were excellent. How do we encompass those couple of examples? Not necessarily those, but for example, the high school event or a fireman's parade. Those things were great examples, and it will also give a really clear, it'll give a really clear narrative of the goal here. And the goal is to support our local events. It isn't to solicit additional flags of whatever they happen to be. Again, not taking anything away from our prior conversation.
I think it would have to be like a little clearer than that. Maybe something along the lines of, you know, to commemorate town events or relating to town department or school district. For example, I mean, so what happens with the Day of Portugal flag, for example? I mean, we fly that on the Day of Portugal. Is that a third-party request? That's not, that wouldn't be related to the town departments. So would that, is that, where does that fit into this? Or is that not, would not be allowed any longer? I'm just trying to clarify it. I mean, I think that the language Andy just suggested to me then implies that you could, unless it's more narrow and says relating to like events that we normally have, you know, or our departments or our school, then the administrator can decide. But, you know, you don't, like, I think what you're trying to do is move away from, let's have the breast cancer flag up and let's have this flag up and that flag up.
Agreed. Well put.
Right?
Councilwoman Pro, I think we should also include the administrator or the council. So if the administrator, for whatever reason, isn't available, it could come to us for a decision as well. I don't know, Andy, if you think that's.
Well, first of all, I was just trying to come up with something quick on the fly here in your discussion. You know, yes, we can come up with much more here. I'm leery about saying something about traditional events. I think that's kind of unconstitutionally vague, and it freezes things. If something new happened, you could never, you know, have a new event because it's not a traditional event. Maybe we just leave out that sentence about the administrator, but still change the name of this to the Town of Bristol Public Request Flag Policy, because I think that's what we're really talking about is the public stuff. And the administrator and the council would still deal with it. And if the council wants, you know, to have a further thing and say, you know, they want to personally take control of the flagpoles and the administrator has to submit, you know, requests ahead of time to the council. I mean, that's something you can do, but I think that's another policy for another day.
So if my colleagues are amenable to this, I like the thoughts that we were using. I think that Andy captured it well in talking about public request. I think that takes care of that part of it. This document can be changed. I do believe that it's appropriate that we move forward unless there's big concern here. And I think if we hit a concern, we'll address it. I don't know if we're going to ever be able to come up with every single nuance, and you've made some great points, but I think that the spirit is being captured well. If we get into a place where we need to make adjustments, we will, but I think we're all in agreement that the goal behind this, the stated goal behind this, is that we lessen the amount of dialogue that we've had about this and the request, and we make it clear that we're hoping to fly state, local, other country flag when appropriate, and town events, including but not limited to fire department and school department. So I don't think we need to get into that. I think Andy captured it well in the beginning, and I believe, like most of what we do, if it needs adjustment, we can adjust it. But I do believe it's important that we take the next step unless there's massive disagreement on that.
I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, because we don't want to put this off another weeks and, you know, find ourselves in a situation. So I think what we should move this, we can always tweak it if we need to. And so there's not a motion already on the floor, is there, for this?
No, but Andy, could you just restate that amended suggestion, and we'll get a motion?
Yes, my suggestion was, in addition to the number of signatures, just to change the title to this to the Town of Bristol Public Request Flag Policy.
And then also additional, do we need that 250?
I would, no, at the moment, seeing how there isn't consensus, I would just not have any further specific language about the administrator or anything like that.
I'm sorry, Andy, there was dialogue about 250 signatures versus 100 is what I was referring to. So,
Yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry, what was your question to me then?
so I said that should be part of that amended motion, correct?
Yes, that would be part of the amended motion about the changing 100 to 250. And then I would just suggest adding that public request flag policy to the title of it. And I would not suggest any other language at this time because I think it would need more time to be carefully crafted.
Yeah.
Tony, you okay? You made that specific comment about the flags. Are you okay with holding off on that part of it?
I am.
Okay. All right. Mary, so is that a motion from you?
Yes, yes. I was just gonna either make that motion or just make the amendments to the motion. So
you've made that motion, Mary. Thank you.
So moved. Oh, the phrase you're looking for.
All right. So Mary made the motion. Tim seconded. Other discussion.
Mr. Chairman, this is Aaron Lay. I just want to say I recognize that I'll probably vote yes on this. It seems like a work in progress, and I just want to make sure that that was on the record and everything like that. You know, certainly it seems like what happened today could, if somebody really wanted to, they could have easily just gone to the town administrator instead of to us. But I guess
it doesn't say that, just so we're clear. We didn't change it so it reflected that new verbiage. So that's not what's on the floor right now. We're leaving the policy as is with the name of the policy changing.
Oh, but the policy that we have in place is that the administrator can do at his discretion a municipally recognized flag.
We didn't add those words to it, but we are all in agreement that a municipally recognized flag is okay at this point. But to your point, Councilman Lay, is that all that we do, including this, is definitely a work in progress. And I believe that there could be some additional tweaks, but I also believe that it was well thought out. And I do believe there is still work to be done. And I'm open, I think everybody is, to whatever tweaks. And we can do that we could add that to our a meeting in the future. So whether it's the next one or otherwise. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. Okay. Is there any other discussion? Okay. So we had a motion made by Mary, seconded by Tim. Tim?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion passes. Thank you all again for the hard work and efforts in regards to that.
Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item I2, and this is the request of Joseph Lero regarding the town's trash pickup policy.
So I am looking for Joseph Lero in the attendees part of it. I did speak to Mr. Lero in regards to this. I did share with him the DPW Director McBride had reminded me, and I'm reminding all of you, that we were fortunate enough to, not fortunate enough, he did a lot of hard work to get the grants to help us offset some of the costs for the trash and recycling bins, which the residents now have, residents and some businesses now have. That requires us to report on a monthly basis our recycling percentages. The hope is that, of course, that those percentages go up, but regardless, we are required to report on a monthly basis, and that requirement is through April of next year. And I shared with Mr. Lero that this was certainly something that we could consider in April or after April, once we've completed that commitment for the grant reporting. So it is something certainly, and he understood and was fine with that. So. And if Chris Vitale, am I missing? Yes, I am. There he is right there. I'm going to click on Mr. Lero so he can speak. So.
No, Nate, am I up now?
You are, and we can hear you. So if you could state your name for the record.
Yeah, Joe Lero, 6 Forest Road. I'm back again.
I hope I captured that well. I think that's exactly our conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I was under the impression we were going to meet with Kevin McBride this week, but that
was
I guess. But in any event, no, I just want to clarify one or two things. First of all, let me say, you folks have instituted a new trash pickup policy in Bristol, and I want to compliment you and Steve Contenti and the DPW and everything. I think it's absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
Absolutely wonderful. And And, you know, I don't know, does everybody have a copy of the letter that I sent and addressed to you, Nate, and members of the town council? Okay.
Part of our packet. So.
All right, so there's no need to go through all the 4 reasons. I know I had the discussion with you regarding the grant that you got to buy the trash bins, the blue and the green bins. And
feel free to share, you know, briefly, but feel free to share your letter to us in the sense of what you had proposed. And because you're on the phone right now, if you, again, just briefly, but share the points that you wanted to make and why you'd like us to consider it. And certainly we'll do that when we can.
Sure. The new trash bins are about 65 gallons, if I'm correct. And if you do the math, they're approximately 4 times the size of the old recycling bins. My wife and I, there are 2 people that live in the house. I certainly do not have need to put out my trash bins every single week, especially the recycling bin. And I could easily put out my recycling bin every other week, like the town of Warren does, and several other towns in Bristol. And I guess my initial intent in writing the letter was to relax the requirement that you had in place that you need to put out your blue bin in order to get your other trash picked up. Otherwise your other trash isn't going to be picked up. I could easily not put out my blue bin. It doesn't mean I'm recycling less. It's just that it's so big that to put it out with 2 or 3 cans in it is sort of a waste of time for the driver and so forth. There are a lot of seniors out there. The other point that I wanted to make is that these bins are big. I don't know how seniors do in rolling them out and so forth, but it would cut their workload in half if they only had to put out 1 bin instead of 2. If the trash truck did not stop to pick up my blue bin because it wasn't out, it would be an environmentally friendly thing when you think of it. You're saving fuel, you're saving wear and tear in the truck, you're saving on pollution. You don't see emissions going up every time they step on the gas pedal, and so forth down the line. It would save the driver a lot of time. You could consolidate the route. You may be able to add more homes to the route, get the route done more quickly, save manpower. I just see a lot of positives in it. I have never personally read a scientific study that said if you don't put it out every week, you're going to recycle less. Now, I know we have that feeling. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I don't know, because I've never read anything to that effect nor seen any study. So if any of you have a study saying that people won't recycle if they don't put it out every week, I'd love to read it, because I've never seen anything. So that was my intent, essentially to, relax the mandate. You got to put out your blue bin. The other bins sort of have to go out because they contain trash. They're going to smell, especially this time of the year. The recycling bins, the stuff that you throw in them, don't really smell as much as, or they shouldn't, as much as the trash stuff. So, okay. In the future, April, I guess, that's fine. We could pick it up at that point in time. I'll resubmit it and we'll see what happens. But that's my logic behind this whole thing.
I wanted to give you an opportunity, and I'm just going to ask you to stay right there because the next item
we'll go to the next one.
Also yours. Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I may, just very briefly, I feel the pain, Mr. Lero, in terms of only 2 people live in the household. I fully understand that. So what we've actually done here in the neighborhood is we've had a chat about 4 of the neighbors, and we've agreed that if you don't have that much trash, let's share each other's trash barrels or even recycle. So rather than put out your own, go next door to the neighbor. And in some instances, actually, I've assisted them take out their recycling and trash bins in return for the favor, So I deposit my 2 bags of, shopping bags of trash and a bag of recycling into the bin. So it certainly is a good way for people to start thinking neighborly, and I fully understand his pain, when you have a reduced household.
No, you got friendly neighbors, Tony. That's great. No, I got friendly neighbors too.
Oh boy. I thought we were going to be friendly here. Let's be careful.
This morning I did do that, and I did put some trash in my neighbor's barrel, but I sort of waited until there wasn't anyone on the street looking around or anybody backing out of their driveways, because I just don't feel right opening up someone's trash and putting something in. So, but anyway, I hear what you're saying.
It's just I'm sorry. It's just a matter of having a conversation. I mean, we have an agreement to do that, so we really don't care, you know.
That's a great point.
Could I just
I would actually, Mary, yes, if I could have a motion, and absolutely you can make your point, if I could just add it in the discussion portion of it.
Well, I just wanted to make a motion that we put this off until the last meeting in April or the first meeting in May. So the council, whoever is sitting there, would take this issue up with the no bid, no barrel policy.
Perfect. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a discussion? Tim?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item I3, also from Mr. Lero, with suggestion that there should be trash receptacles on the East Bay bicycle path.
Floor is yours again, sir. Are you still there? I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Okay.
There you are.
Am I?
You are. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I love this town, and I can't stand seeing a cigarette butt on the ground. I can't stand seeing anything on the ground, a Kleenex, whatever it is. It just drives me crazy. You know, I guess I could just go over and pick it up, but I'm so afraid to go over and pick up trash now with all this pandemic stuff out there and everything else with my bare hands that I let it go reluctantly. I would prefer picking it up and putting it in a trash bin, but I haven't been able to do that. But my request this time is, it's not quite as it's worded on the agenda, to put trash receptacles on the East Bay bike path. That's state property. I don't want to get involved with the state at all. I'm interested in putting them on town property right near adjacent to the bike path. And my suggestion was, I think there's one very, very close to Oliver Street right now at the beginning of the bike path, and to put 2 or 3 more along the bike path, but on town property. And so people can throw whatever they have. You know, the people buy something, a sip and dip, they're drinking the iced coffee, you know, a half a mile later, they need a place to throw their cup. They're walking their dog. This is the big one. You all know what I'm talking about. You've walked the bike path or walked around town. You see dog poop bags hanging from branches because they've got no place to throw these bags. So they heave them thinking they're going to go way in the woods. They don't make it. They get caught up on a branch, and there they hang for the entire summer. It would be actually better and easier if they just let the dog go with it on the side. It would disintegrate a lot faster, but that's not the case. So, you know, I went around town this week and looked at all the trash receptacles that we have. And without spending a lot of time, I've counted over 100. You know, Independence Park, there are about 15 around the park. The town beach, there are 30. The town common has a dozen. Wood Street, there's another 20. Downtown Hope Street, there's 14. Another half dozen on High Street. Vets Park, close to a dozen, I think 10. I didn't even get to Coelho Park, Paul Park, the teepees, or any of those other places. And if you just add up those numbers, it's over 100. So I'm saying to myself, gee, can't we put out another 3 barrels? Is it, you know, that complicated? It would make such a difference, especially for people that have dogs. And you know, lemonade cups, sip and dip cups, anything that people are drinking. It would give them a place to dispose of this trash. So that's what I'm placing before you, hoping that you will look upon this positively, and that we can work out some kind of an arrangement. I know downtown you have these like beer keg sort of trash receptacles that are encased in some kind of wrought iron. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, you have those. There are actually 3 or 4 different styles as you walk around town. Wood Street has a different style. They're black. They've got the recycling and the trash sort of on the, to get, you know, right on the same pole. But to put anything that you want to put, it doesn't make any difference. Some of them are in these like cement encasements. So people don't, are not tempted to throw their trash where it shouldn't be thrown. They have an opportunity to put it in its proper place.
Okay. Council thoughts?
Yes, Tony, have we contacted the state reps, and say, hey, how do you assist in this and to get the state to take some buy-in to this? Because I have a little concern with putting some of these on some of these cross streets. Liability for one, two, the concern, especially with the bike path, with people riding along, running along there. I would have to be very cautious about if we go that path.
Tony,
I agreed.
Please.
Can I jump in, Nate?
No, let Tony finish, please.
So, I certainly agreed. I'm out there walking every morning, so I see some of this. So I know exactly what Joe is talking about, what Mr. Little is talking about. But I think we need to reach out to the state folks and say, how do you help us keep the town clean?
Go ahead.
Nate? Okay.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay. The state has its own, forgive me for using this word, I think misdirected policy of carry in, carry out. So Colts Park, it's a carry in, carry out. So you go there and there's stuff all over the place. There are no receptacles. People are supposed to take their trash out. Sometimes that's convenient. Sometimes it isn't. Again, if you're walking a dog, what do you do with it? I think anytime you get the state involved in anything, it's either not going to happen or it's going to go on and on and on and on. It takes so long to get anything done. I'm just talking about, take for instance, you got one at the beginning of the bike path right now. Okay, that hasn't been a problem. You can certainly put one up by Asylum Road. There's plenty of space there. You could put it over by where they have the Dell's Lemonade portable stand in that general vicinity. You could put one at the bottom of Gibson or the bottom of Mulberry or perhaps the bottom of Beach, one of those other streets. Picking them up, like I said, we're already stopping to pick up 100 of these things. It's 3 more. And the one at the Town Beach, if you put one on Asylum Road, you can have the rec department do it. In fact, I talked to one of the rec people the other day, and this individual said that the town picks up all these trash barrels at the Town Beach all during the week, and on weekends, the rec department takes care of emptying them. So you have to drive by the Dell's Lemonade stand to get to the Town Beach. Certainly we can stop and pick up that thing and empty it, and we give all those people a chance to dispose of their garbage. I just don't see it as being a terribly complicated thing. I really don't. I mean, I'd offer to go and empty these things myself if I could, if I weren't going in for knee surgery next week. But
Mr. Chairman, is
and I'm going to call in Mary next. Go ahead, Tim.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Go ahead, Tim.
Is Director McBride on?
I do not see him on the call.
Okay, I was just wondering if he was available to comment at all.
So I'm going to go to Mary.
Yep.
I just think it's an important issue to take on. I mean, I think it's, especially if it's only a minimum number like 3, 4, just to be able to have those. And I think the space, I forget what the amount is, but it's more than 3 feet. What is it, like 6 feet on each side? Isn't there a buffer? Oh, that's a state property. Is that right?
As far as I know, I think I know where you're going with that. Yes.
I was just trying to figure out, I don't think it's like too much to ask. I know that we have a lot of trash barrels. I know we have a lot of trash in the summer, especially. And DPW and the rec department are very busy taking care of that. We've talked about trash a lot, especially as it relates to some of the barrels downtown on weekends. And I would just throw in here a little different topic on the need for the solar compactors for in some locations. But I don't think adding 3 or 4 to address this issue is a big problem. And I think we should definitely look at that and see if we can't identify a place that is easily accessible for pickup and is far enough away from anybody's driveways or home or whatever the case may be on town property. And I don't think, because of the buffer, I really don't think that it's not going to really be dangerous to people who are riding or walking or biking, because there's state land on each side of the path, if I'm not mistaken.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Kevin is actually on the call and he has his hand raised.
Oh, I couldn't tell that was him. All right, so I'll be, Kevin, I'll be with you in just one second. I was actually just going to say that maybe it makes the most sense to refer this to the DPW director and the administrator to take a look at this. I think it may not be as simple as adding a couple of extra bins because of its location, as in, you know, we have that circle of downtown, if you will, and there's a cycle there, but I defer to certainly the director, and I just unmuted you, Director McBride. You should be able to speak, and what's being proposed is we refer this to you and the administrator, maybe come back to us at our next meeting, or if you need longer than that, tell us, and we can have a more, I don't know, fact-focused conversation. But please go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay? This is
Yes,
Kevin
we can.
McBride.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, real quick. I mean, you know, we can certainly take a look into the situation. I think, as the council knows, we've gone down this road a couple of times in the past and had the similar discussion relative to barrel placement for the East Bay bike path. I would like to note that we added quite a few extra receptacles in the Independence Park and the downtown area, primarily because of the COVID-19 outdoor dining requirements. We found that a lot of people were dining outside, obviously generating a lot of extra trash and throwaway recycling material. So we added that to accommodate for the outdoor dining piece. We can certainly take a look at this again. Although I will point out that I drove every single road crossing for the bike path in town and did not note any issues with litter or trash. Again, the bike path is, as Mr. Laurel pointed out, it's a DEM bike path. And I know he's looking at, you know, the town right-of-way locations where the bike path crosses it. You know, so, I mean, I'd certainly think we could take a look at that going forward, but we have gone down this road a few times in the past. And I just wanted to point that out. Nothing more to add. Thank you.
So unless there's objection from the council, it would seem like fact-based conversation is the way to go. And if we could ask that the director do a little bit of research. And Kevin, while you're still on the call, our next meeting is July 22nd. And then after that, I believe, is August 14th, if my memory is correct. Would the 14th be more, August 19th, I'm sorry. Is there a preference day that you could come back to us with a little bit more information on that?
I think what I could do is work with the town administrator, and then we could push it for an agenda item with the council. If we can get to it sooner, obviously we do it sooner.
Okay.
If that's okay with the council.
So the way I understood that is that we'll refer it, and then in a timely fashion, whether it's July or August, they'll come back to us with some information. Is everybody
correct?
Okay?
Sir, I'm good with that, and I think I'd like to get it sooner. You know, I'm sure Mr. Laurel would like us to take a look at it sooner as well. So if we can get to it sooner, that would be my goal.
Mr. Administrator, does that work for you?
Yeah, I just would like to add a couple of points.
Of course.
First off, Mr. Laurel, thank you. We certainly understand, and it's a common problem with the dog droppings that are thrown into the bushes and trees in plastic bags, and they're there for quite some time. So it's certainly something we would like to tackle, and I just want the council to hear this. So Colt State Park, they have a carry-in, carry-out policy. Once our Town Beach booth closes, we'll get an influx of the picnickers coming in, and they use our trash receptacles. Huge amounts of trash and tonnage from Colt State Park that gets dumped on the municipality. So just be aware of that. So if the expectations are to put town receptacles on Asylum Road, I'm not so sure that would be a good idea. But there are some other areas, and maybe Mr. Laurel could still chime in here, or I'll call him later in the week. If there's a couple of key intersecting streets, there will be a cost, and that's the other thing we all need to be aware of. There is what we call the creep factor, where next we're going to get requests in other parts of town. And Mr. Laurel did mention, well, downtown has them, those are areas where there are sidewalks. It's pretty much a pickup route. Once we go into the residential neighborhoods, it's going to be a daily assignment for 1 or 2 members of DPW during the week. So we're trying to minimize it, but certainly we don't want unsanitary conditions in the community. So Kevin, Director McBride, and I can work on it. I'll call Mr. Lero, and and we will try to find within due time, maybe even the next meeting, we'll come back with a report for you. Last thing I would like to say, though, is Mr. Lero was my geometry teacher. He's probably right on when he talked about the square capacity of the recycling and the trash. He was a geometry teacher, so he's probably right.
Thank you, Steve.
But he'll ask you to show you the math, right? So.
But would you be receptive to me getting in touch with Kevin or yourself, Steve, and
you can call if you
around trying to say, this is doable or this is not doable?
Yep, we'll, you want to call a town hall, that's fine, but Director McBride or I will reach out to you. How's that?
Okay.
Okay.
So I would ask this council for a motion to refer to the administrator and DPW director to come back with the information requested by our August 19th meeting. How's that? And that gives them that flexibility.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So Tony, we can't hear you, but I think you said second.
I did.
Okay.
Second.
So Tim made the motion. Tony seconded it to refer to the administrator and DPW director. Is there any other dialogue or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, Aaron Lay here. Just a quick comment. There's obviously the technical side of things. How do we get people to recycle? And that's definitely in the DPW wheelhouse. One of the other things we might think about too is to talk to the Conservation Committee about kind of an educational side on this issue as well. Maybe coming up with some kind of educational component to it. So
good idea.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Tim?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
I also vote aye, and that means the motion carries. And thank you, Mr. Lero, for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director McBride, too.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is from Councilwoman Perella regarding trash barrels, request to consider alternative sizes.
Mary?
Thank you. So this is in regards to the 35-gallon. So we had a lot of discussion before we decided on the 65-gallon. We were looking at 95s, 65s. We settled sort of in the middle in order to go to the automated trash. And we had a lot of discussion on again, off again about people being able to change them out once the program got underway. And I know Kevin, and the request was to make sure that they could roll out with one size, because to try to fit people's needs and then not really sure what they needed. But I think we all have gotten letters, and I know Judy is still on here, from people in comments. I've gotten many of them from senior citizens that the 65-gallon is just too big. Some of the issues that Joe Lero raised, which I also made reference to in my item number 2 about the new no bid, no barrel policy, and trying to drag them all out. And as I point out here, I feel that, anybody that spoke to me about this for, I think it goes back to probably November, where there was a flurry of letters to the editor about the size of the bins and senior citizens and what they could handle. And anybody that I talked to from there forward always said, like, whatever we decide, let just be patient, let us roll them out, and then we'll have an opportunity to see how it's working, and give us till the summer to try to find out, to determine if we can exchange them. Some people felt that they were too small if they have a large family, and they needed the 95-gallon, and others have requested or asked about the 35. And I totally understand, because living, particularly, I'm just going to use an example of the downtown area. It is, and I made a reference in my my email. Sometimes people have like these really nice garages and just a nice pristine driveway, and they just roll the cart right down. And that sounds great. But when you get into sort of downtown here, and I'm sure other areas as well, potentially, and you've got to roll it over maybe broken up concrete, grass area, and maybe gravel. It's not that easy to do. And if they're filled and they're heavy, it's really difficult. I've had mine knocked over a couple of times. I've knocked them over, and it's like got to drag off. So while I don't fill mine, I would not want to go smaller at this point. But I think that there are many senior citizens in particular who have smaller family sizes and physical limitations that they really can't drag these 65-gallon barrels around. And one of the points that Judy in particular has made, Judy Anderson, she can certainly speak for herself, is what happens, and I know this has come up before, what happens in the winter when it's icy and there's snowbanks and there's all these things we're trying to maneuver over grass area and so forth and so on. So I know there's been some conversation with, like, one of the people who's brought it to our attention in DPW, and whether or not the company makes them or doesn't make them. Well, they do make that size. And I think that we need to relook at this issue and make some of the smaller sizes available for those who really need them. And I think that it's easy to say 65 rolls really easily. I was talking to one of my colleagues who said he can roll them out with his pinkies. Well, I'll have him come over to my house then and do that, because I can't do that and two at one time. That's amazing. So I'm very impressed with that, but it's not that easy for everyone. And so I just wanted to raise this issue and to put this back in our purview, to be talking about it and see what people's thoughts, see what your thoughts are on it, and also to hear from at least one of our constituents who is still on the line.
So for myself, I felt like some of your points were quite valid. I think that yes, there are more and less challenging places. I, for myself, start on a brick walkway and end up in grass. So, but my 13-year-old does it for us now, so I'm quite fortunate about that. But I was the one who was doing it prior to that.
Maybe I'll borrow him.
Yeah, exactly. He does a good job with it, but I don't know. I'm very concerned. I had a conversation with Director McBride, and I know he's on the call or still on the call. I'm concerned about the cost involved in this. Is that you are correct, Mary? There is those bins are available, but they're not available to. I thought it was as simple as taking a bin, a 35-gallon generic bin, and putting our name on it. And it doesn't seem that way. It seems that they are I would call them injection molded, and that our insignia and the RFID tag is all made all at the same time. It isn't an after adjustment to it or an after step to it. And I guess the combination of all of that makes it so there's about it's upwards of $10,000. I'm sorry, it's almost $10,000. And when you figure in the cost of them, because you have to buy a minimum amount of, I think it was 115. And again, I'll defer to Director McBride on that. But there's a lot of dollars involved in it. And I know we had a lot of discussion about this. And I in no way, shape, or form think that we could have solved for everyone. But the majority was what we were shooting for. And as you all recall, we started at 95. Part of the goal with the 95 was to do an every other week for recycling to hopefully save some costs there. But we ended up with the 65s for a myriad of reasons, including that it would lessen trash. In fact, I remember Councilman Lay's argument to that effect, and we all agreed. It also was to make it as convenient for most. I didn't say all, because I don't think we could ever do all. But I believe that we tried to straddle the line, and I don't believe that you hit it every time, and I don't believe we made everyone happy. But I must tell you, I have not received any requests for this. And I've, as you, talked to a lot of people of young and old, and I've not got any requests. I haven't found a major difference. I own a 35 from prior, and I've checked both of them, and I can't see a big difference in the weight, how much you have to lean them back and all of that. And obviously we don't have to go into all the particulars there, but it just didn't feel like that it was a major difference to me. I'm also concerned, after talking to the director, that I think when we give too many choices, we're adding a lot, our cost savings quickly disappears in both purchasing and then swapping back and forth, and which ones do you have and don't have, and how many do you need. So although I commend the choice of it, I think we spent a lot of, well, I know we spent a lot of time on it, and we tried to hit most. Again, I'm not suggesting we hit all, but I think we did a good job in straddling the needs of most of our residents. And it's not, if it was only a small dollar figure or someone could buy a one-off, I think I would very much support that. And if there's an opportunity, happy to consider that myself. That's my thoughts.
One of the things that I would, and I assume Judy still wants to speak. Her hand's not up, but she's still here. I think that we need to investigate this further. Like, I think having to buy 115 of them, or whatever the number is, I thought it was
whatever the number is, yeah.
Whatever it is, I think that is maybe too many. I think that we need to refer it to the administrator, to the director, and perhaps, I don't know who would be the other person. I'm thinking like even just someone that could do like a Google form survey on our website. Like, we don't really know how many people want to do this. I know that when I spoke to the chairman and other about this topic, we don't really know the need. We don't know if people would, would they be willing to pay something? To me, it would be even swap, for example, and they're still in pretty good condition. So, they're all pretty much new. So we would just be swapping this particular size out. And I don't see it as that much different from the people that were able to swap out for the 95s for the larger families. Now, I do understand the difference in the larger size barrels is that, a lot of that was relating to businesses. Yes. And us picking up like the trash of the recycling. And that's why that's why those are a little bit easier to come by. But we still have them available to families that need the bigger, the larger bins. So I think we need to really look at something and see if there's not another manufacturer where you could maybe buy a handful of them, see if people would be willing to put some share of the money, whether it's 25% or 50%, pay towards some of the cost, if that's what it needs to take place. But I do think it's something that we need to look at, and we need to look at it so that whatever the issue is, it can be resolved by the winter. We're lucky this year because we didn't have a winter with this, because they didn't get rolled out till March. And we also had a very mild winter. But you start getting to some of these areas and trying to get them down, little slopes down in the downtown, some of these streets. And, if you don't have a driveway nearby and you're going down the sidewalk to the neighbor's driveway to bring it out to the street, I think there's lots of issues. It comes up to me very often by a number of people, but, and maybe the area in which I live. If Judy wants to say something, if you could let her, that would be appreciated.
I will, and certainly I'll recognize her in a moment. I'd like to give our colleagues an opportunity to share if they would like to, and if not, I will recognize Judy if she so chooses to speak. And Judy, if you are on the call and you would like to speak, if you could raise your hand on it. I know you have the Zoom app, and you do that by just moving your cursor over and clicking on participants and then saying raising your hand. So, but my colleagues have any thoughts before I ask if Judy wants to speak?
Mr. Chairman, this is Tim. I just wanted to say I don't think we have enough information. I'm with Councilwoman Perrella. I'd like to refer to the town administrator and the DPW director, just trying to come back with us with some analysis in regards to cost. How often do we get this? Is it very isolated? Is it often? That sort of thing. That's
a great point. When we said that earlier, that fact-based conversation. Yep. I can see Judy's hand raised, so I'll recognize her in a moment. But to that end, Mary, it sounded that's the way you wanted to go. Could you make a motion on behalf if you're comfortable with that? And I am not stopping the conversation. I will recognize Judy in a moment.
Yeah, I think you can hear Judy, but I'm perfectly fine with doing that. I do not just want it to be based on, though, how many complaints have we gotten? How many people have requested? Because I know people who have not called the DPW about it, but they've complained or they've talked to, they've mentioned it to me. So I would rather if we could put something up, and I'm not sure who would do that. That's why I'm sort of looking at Chris Vitale, because he knows a lot of how to do this. Just a simple survey that we would let people know that it's out there. It's just a couple of simple questions to be able to say like, yes, I would want this. I know one of the questions you raised, Mr. Chairman, with me was, you know, do you, what if they don't like the 35 and realize it's too small? Well, I think people need to understand, and I think they've had 3 months of experience with these, that if they change one, they can't just go back and forth. You just can't keep swapping in and out. I think the people who are having the difficulty have like health reasons or limitations, physical limitations that make it much more difficult and just to handle the larger one. You know, so there may not be a huge dimensional size, but I'm sure the height is quite different too between the 35 and the you know, the other. So that is, you know, I think we need to do a little survey, let people, give them a couple of weeks to go online, click in, ask some questions about, you know, if it's going to cost that much money, are they willing to put a little bit of money into it? I don't think the homeowner should have to, but that may be the only way to do it. And I've heard that some people are actually hiring people to come and drag these trash barrels out. If that's the case, then it's going to be a whole lot easier to spend a small amount of money to get the smaller size if need be. That's just my thought. I don't know what other people would think about that. But if that's the issue, and is there another vendor that could provide these in a smaller quantity for far less money? Is the other question, with all the stuff that you have in there, like the RFID and so forth. Yeah. So anyway, that's my thought. I just don't want people to say, well, you know, I haven't heard from any, like, I know it'd be easy for DPW, and this is not, you know, derogatory in any way, but it would be easy for them to say, well, I haven't gotten that many complaints, but there may be people who just don't call, that, you know, are just struggling or have paid someone to solve the problem for them. So that's why I'm asking that if we do this, we do it as like a mini survey on our website or somewhere.
So that makes, it makes sense that you want some more information. And again, we talked about fact-based conversation. So I'm comfortable with that. Again, what I was hoping for is, it sounds like.
I can make a motion to that effect.
Okay. Is there a second?
Lou, you got that?
I'll second that.
Okay. So motion made by Mary, seconded by Tony, to refer, and I know we're going to have discussion here in a second, to refer to the administrative and DPW director to look into not only cost, but viability and potential interest in the smaller bins. Is that a fair way of sharing that, Mary?
Yeah, I would say to the department director, the administrator, and whoever is the person who's most likely to be able to get a little survey together and put it on our website.
Perfect.
Or
okay.
perhaps the library's website, something like that. So I'm not trying to pick on like Chris Vitale or anybody like that. I just know he can do that.
I figured the administrator would then parse out who would be most appropriate.
Too, right?
Yeah. So good luck, Mr. Administrator.
I'm learning how to, I could do it myself probably, but.
Tony?
Mr. Chairman, just a point of clarification. Mary, are you referring to, would it be trash and recycling containers to be the same size, 35s?
Yes, both of them.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So Judy, I'm going to ask, I've just unmuted you. I speak about Judy Anderson. If you could state your name and address for the record. If Mary's covered your thoughts already, or most of them, you don't need to restate, but anything that you wanted to add additionally, please do.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, this is Judy Anderson at 117 Constitution Street, and thank you for letting me have some time here. I don't need that much, but I don't think I'm totally unique. I'm unique in my specific situation and difficulty getting these bins out. And for me, there is a very big difference between the 65 and 35 gallon bins. In fact, what would be perfect for me with the 35s is I would be able to put them on my porch in the winter, so I wouldn't have to get them down an alleyway, which is behind a gate. I have no off-street parking. And in the winter, I will never be able to get the 65 bins out. I've already measured the 18, I think 18 and a half width. There's a huge difference in the size of these bins. I'm not going to recycle any more or less because I have a smaller bin, and the same with my garbage. I don't know tons of people, but the few people that I do know, I'm 75. I have My best friend is 81. She lives on Erickson Lane. She has a very steep driveway. She also has arthritis and other medical issues. It's almost impossible for her to get those big ones down there. In the winter, she'll just fall down. I mean, there's a huge difference in the sizes. I have another friend, as Mary mentioned, on Pierce Avenue near me. These are people like who live near me, has hired someone to take them in and take them back every day, every trash day. I'm thinking I'm going to have to do the same in the winter. Plus, I'm going to have to hire somebody to shovel out along the side of my house. I never use the side gate. It's very narrow. Tim came by and saw where I keep my trash bins. That part of my house I never used unless I needed some sort of a service in my basement or something. Now the gate opens the wrong way. But the other thing is these bigger bins, the 65, even those do not fit into a garage with a car in it in a lot of the houses. I know if I still lived on Kingswood Road up off of Fales, there would be no way I could get the 65 past a car in there. And I have another friend who cannot, if the car is parked in there, get the bins out of the garage without moving the car. So there are a lot of problems. And I just think there are more people than you might think. I also called again recently down in Newport because they do offer the 35-gallon bins in Newport. And I spoke to a woman named Dawn in the department, the DPW. And they offer them and they can switch out if somebody moves into a house and doesn't need the big bins. They can switch around for the different bin sizes. And she mentioned that Newport has a lot of the situations on a larger scale than we do in Bristol, but downtown houses where there's no off-street parking and no places to store them, to put them.
So I think you captured it well, that there's a potential need for some. And I think that the next step that this council is going to take, unless there's objection to the motion, is see if we can get some more information from our director and administrator, or through the administrator, and see what kind of need there is. And I think I can speak for all of us that if there's an opportunity that is cost effective or cost reasonable, or however we want to say that, I mean, we're always willing to take a look at opportunities here. So at the moment, we don't know what we're talking about specifically as what the costs are or what's available, but I think some research could be done in a reasonable amount of time and come back to us, and we'll take a look at this. And if it's prohibitive cost-wise, we'll talk about it. And if it's possible to do this, I mean, cheapers. We made these decisions based off most, and if there's an opportunity that is not too expensive or reasonable, or maybe who knows what's out there, then I'm happy to talk about it. I know my colleagues are too. So, and thank you for sharing the thoughts and the specifics on it. It helps us kind of craft the idea here. Mary, with your, go ahead.
I just want to say a couple more things very quickly.
As long as it's quickly, we're really far behind. So,
all right. As far as taking a survey, I would recommend maybe something in the Bristol Phoenix also. A lot of my friends are not computer literate. So if you run a questionnaire online about who might need them, I already know 4 or 5 people who are not going to go online, who can't go online and don't know how to do that. So perhaps something in the Bristol Phoenix so that they could call up and say they want to be put on a list or something. And the second thing, if it costs $10,000, my home equity line of credit is almost paid down. I will donate $5,000 of my own money towards this. That's how important it is to me.
Clerk,
because
could you
seniors
write that
want to have
specifically down for us? I'm joking, Judy.
but seniors want to feel independent. It's horrible to, we go to physical therapy to learn the best way to use a vacuum cleaner so we don't hurt our backs and this and that. We like to feel independent, and this does not make me feel independent. It makes me feel really old, and it just brings out all the things I can't do exhibited when I try to take those trash cans. I have to take them out empty and then bring my trash out once I position the cans on the road. So a lot of people
Judy, our goal is definitely is to be open-minded about it. I know my colleagues and I are certainly willing to consider options, and those options will be considered in public. So we'll have more public dialogue about it and say what options are there, and then we can discuss what those are and take the next step, because there has to be a next step at some point. So
well, I will donate $5,000 if that helps.
Judy, if you keep saying that, I'm going to come over to your house and
I've got my loan is almost all paid down, so I'll go for it. It's worth it to me and to other seniors that I know.
It's
Thank you very
50%
much
off.
for your time.
Thank you, seriously. Thank you.
Check tomorrow.
I do think it's important, I think it's a good point about the computer technology. I mean, to be able to have a number to register your be put on a list. I mean, that's what we want to know. We want to know how many people would actually switch these out and get them. And if there's not quite that number, can we find a vendor that can do it for less money and the same thing in a smaller quantity? And as I said, one of the questions should be, are you willing to pay something towards this, 25% or 50% or some amount? Maybe that some people are willing to pay for the whole thing. I just personally don't think that that's fair, but it may be worth it, because if you're going to pay somebody to bring your trash barrels in and out, you're going to pay for the cost of a new one, a smaller one in a couple of weeks. So,
as been mentioned, it's 50% off today only. So maybe we'll take advantage of that. So, all right. So we had a motion and a second to refer to the administrator and DPW director for some more information. And I won't restate everything. I think it was clearly stated. Tim?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
I also say aye. Motion passes and carries. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item I-5, and this is the awaited Charter Review Commission recommendations, and it would also be necessary for the council at some point, not necessarily now, but in the very, very near future, to call for a public hearing to consider these things prior to sending them to the ballot.
So I'm going to take a couple of minutes on a few things. First off, I'd like to publicly thank the Charter Review Commission for their hard work and efforts. This was a lot of work, and there was a lot of good process put into this, a lot of discussion about it and debate. And what ultimately came to us, I was able to attend a meeting and a half, but I wanted to publicly thank Bethany Souza Foster, Mary Ann Allen, Stephen DeLeo, Will Grappentine, Peter Hewitt, Charles Kellner, Jane Lavender, Charles McDonough, and Christopher Vitale, not to be confused with the gentleman that's in the middle of our screen right now. It's another Chris Vitale, who's obviously a resident in Bristol. So first off, thank you to you all. What's in front of us, and I speak to the public at the moment, is suggested changes to our charter as is required or generally required every 10 years. What's being proposed are a few things, and I'm going to call on the chair of that committee, Bethany Souza Foster, just in a moment to briefly encapsulate what's in front of us. As the clerk pointed out, we do need a public hearing. It's my proposal, and we'll get to this at the end of this discussion, but we would have a public hearing at our next scheduled meeting because of the timeline, which is July 22nd. And in the meantime, what has been past practice for multiple times of this is that the council needs to have a special meeting to discuss what we believe is appropriate for that public hearing. So for example, we support everything that's in front of us. We support nothing that's in front of us. We want half of it, whatever it happens to be, and we have that discussion. So I'll work with the clerk, and I'll ask the clerk to reach out to all of you. I'm thinking the Wednesday before our next meeting. So what I mean by that is the Wednesday before the 22nd. But will the
Mr.
clerk...
Chairman,
yes.
The Wednesday before, and then to have the public hearing on the 22nd, I don't think it would work, because
thank you. That's a good point.
We have the complication of having to advertise for the public hearing. I mean, the solicitor can weigh in on it. I can just tell you past practice was to put an advertisement in the newspaper prior to the public hearing, outlining the things that were being considered at the public hearing. So
Which is
just
most appropriate. I agree.
it'd be a bit of a impossibility to do that tightly.
Okay. So I will work with the clerk if my colleagues are amenable, and we'll propose something that coincides with advertising and past practice to make sure the public is aware of what is being considered. Okay. So I am going to unmute Bethany Foster. Good evening, Bethany. I think you can.
Good evening.
Good evening. Again, thank you all for your hard work and efforts that you put into what's in front of us. And I would ask if you could briefly kind of run down what it is that's in front of us and why the Charter Review Commission is proposing these changes.
Hi, good evening, Chairman Calero, Councilman Sweeney, Texera, and Lay, and Councilwoman Perella, and everybody else on the call. My name is Bethany Souza Foster. I don't know if I have to give my address, 33 Roma Street. I was chairwoman of the Charter Review Commission. As Chairman said, joining me on the commission were Marianne Allen, Jane Lavender, Stephen DeLeo, Will Graffentine, Peter Hewitt, Charlie Kellner, Charles McDonough, and Christopher Vitale. Before I go on, I want to thank everyone on the commission for how hard they worked. We met for several hours every week to come up with a solid set of recommendations. We all worked together very well, even though we all came from different backgrounds with different experiences and different political views. We all worked very well. Our debates were always very civil, and it was a pleasure to work with everyone. So what we did is, once we started, we all read through individually the charter, and then we all came to the group with our list of changes. And we did a first round review of the changes that everyone recommended, and we voted that night whether to move something for further discussion or to just pass on it the first night. So we did that kind of through 2 meetings, and then we had a pretty decent list of things that we wanted to discuss and work through together. And we considered each proposed change and debated. I have to say we had a lot of work from Mike Ursillo and Amy Goins, our town solicitors who were assigned to the project with us. They helped us understand how the recommendations would integrate into the rest of the charter, the legality of specific recommendations, how other cities and towns in Rhode Island deal with the same issues, and how to word the proposed changes. We couldn't have done this without them, and I really thank them. In addition, Town Clerk Lou Cirillo attended most of the meetings. He was the official minute keeper, but we really relied on his knowledge and experience to help us understand how sections of the charter really worked in the real world. So he helped make our recommendations stronger, and I can't thank him enough. So the Charter Review Commission is recommending that the charter consider placing the following 10 proposals on the ballot in November. The first proposal is actually not a new one. I believe it was on the ballot 10 years ago and it did not pass. But that is to change the title of from town administrator to mayor. And the reason we did that, one of the proposed changes that we ultimately discussed and rejected was whether or not we should make the town administrator whether we should make it an appointed position. Because generally we looked at all the towns and cities in Rhode Island, and in general, and I can say this, the towns that have town administrators, they're generally appointed positions. They're appointed by the town councils, whereas the towns that have mayors are elected positions. So Bristol was in this really weird situation where we have an elected town administrator, and we thought just to kind of streamline that, make it clear.
Bethany, if I may, just real quickly, because this will be part of our public hearing, what I was hoping for, if you would, is just a brief rundown of what's being, of questions that are in front of us. And I absolutely would hope that this discussion would continue.
That's right. We can do that.
Hearing, yeah.
Sure. So our first change is to change the title of town administrator to mayor. Our second one is actually to change all of the terms of the town council, the town administrator, and the town clerk to 4 years. That would happen immediately for the town administrator and the town clerk. We would actually stagger the terms for the town council. So we've proposed a way to do that. The next recommendation is to, codify a salary adjustment for the town council connected to the Northeast Region CPI. We had a lot of discussion on that. We went back and forth a lot. And what we looked at is the town council stipend has been, was set 18 years ago and has not changed. And so we took a look at that and we said, you know, what is a way we can do this fairly without actually requiring the town council to pass their own raises? And so in the end, we suggested tying it to a regional inflation, similar to what people who are on Social Security get. So not too far off from what people are used to. And these were a couple little ones that were actually proposed to us. We're giving, right now, the town solicitor, probate judge, and town sergeant are appointed like almost immediately, and we're giving 90 days so that new members of the town council can get to know who they are actually appointing. The next is for eliminate required meetings for the Capital Project Commission. This was just a small issue. Sometimes we don't have any projects that are under review by the Capital Project Commission, and there was a requirement that they met every 4 times a year, and there's no need to do that if there's no project. We also eliminated a residency requirement for the sailor of weights and measures. That came up primarily because there was no one qualified who was also a resident. So we was either leave that position open or hire someone who didn't comply with the charter. The next one is conforming the purchasing threshold amount to applicable state law. Right now, anything that was any purchase greater than $5,000 needed to go out to bid, whereas state law was a little higher, and that was also indexed to inflation. So all we've said, rather than spelling out the dollar amount, is that we would use whatever whatever the General Assembly uses. That's what we have to go out for bid for. These last two are actually connected, so if the town administrator, this one's actually not, what would happen in the event of a town administrator vacancy? There was actually, it was like this whole successive thing of like, it would be the town council chairman, the town council vice chairman, any member of the town council. And what it dawned on all of us was that the town council is a part-time position, whereas the town administrator is a full-time position. And it's entirely possible that all the members of the town council have other jobs and can't actually step into the role of the town administrator. So we just changed it to say any qualified elector. It could be a town council member, but it actually makes it easier to find a replacement. These last two are connected. So under the current charter, if a member if one of the town officials is convicted of a crime, then they actually could stay in their role until all of their appeals are exhausted, which could be years and years and years in their role while they're actually convicted of a crime. So we actually changed that, which said, and we used our solicitor to kind of pull language from, you know, what's legal and what actually other towns do. And in addition to that, if you know, someone does something that's maybe they don't get convicted, but it's morally or ethically not right, then we're now proposing a way to actually recall an elected official.
Thank you. That was a great rundown of all of that. And I'll say again for the whole council that we appreciate the hard work that went into all of this. I know that I look forward to, and apparently it's going to be really soon, we're going to have a special meeting that will discuss the finer points of this, whether it's all of it, most of it, some of it, and then the proposed public hearing for our next regularly scheduled meeting. I would ask that that you and your colleagues on the commission, if you're there, if there was something in particular that you wanted to respond to, or you know, make efforts to make sure that it's considered in the way that you did. We're happy to listen, of course, and we want to listen. So, so I would say from here again, thank you to all of you. And it's 10:47, so thank you for all of you who stayed on the call, because I know this has been quite a long meeting this evening. So thank you for that. So, Mr. Clerk, could you help me do in regards to a motion? Is that we call for a public, this is the problem, is that right? We call for public hearing on the 22nd, and we'll schedule that special meeting. Is that a fair next step?
Sounds perfect to me, sir.
Okay. So could I have a motion to that effect?
So moved, Chairman.
And Mary seconded that. I saw her hand go up like that.
Yeah.
So Tim made the motion, Mary seconded. I'm having a little bit of fun now. Is there any other discussion? No. Okay, Tim?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
I heard Mary on that one. Aaron?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
I also say aye. Motion carries. Again, thank you all very much.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, the next item is bid number 934, tabulation. This is for the Town Council audio visual upgrades. We have this was taken a little bit out of the normal schedule, so hang on one second.
It's lost under the piles of notes that you took this evening.
It is lots of piles of notes. Okay, and we did receive one bid from Global AV Solutions of Mableton, Georgia, in the amount of $22,347.99.
What's this council's pleasure?
Motion to refer to the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town.
Second.
There's a motion made by Tim, seconded by Mary. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, rather. This is Andy Tights.
That's not as part of the charter review questions, sir. I am still just the chairman, so.
It's late. Your Excellency, could you include in your motion my understanding that this is coming from 2019-20 funds that have already been obligated? If you could add that to your motion to make it clear, in case there's a question later.
Tim?
So moved.
Mary?
Yes, second. Yep, that's fine.
Chris, was that what you wanted to make that point on?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. All right. So we had a motion and a second amended. All heard that. Is there any other discussion? Tim?
Sorry. Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
I also say aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, and regretfully, there is a second bid that did not make the agenda, so I don't know if it's suitable, Mr. Tights, to add the reading of those bids.
I don't think so. I think that's something substantive that cannot be added.
So basically, what we'll do is we will add that to the special meeting that is planned to consider the charter review questions, the workshop, okay?
Perfect. I'm going to beat the clerk to the next agenda item. This was on for town solicitor executive session for updates to litigation. This was my request, and this was only to make sure that this council was up to speed on whatever is out there. It is unnecessary for us to go over it this evening. It is quite late, and I think some of us are already home. Some of us want to go home. So I would ask that this get continued, motion in that effect to our next meeting, please.
So move.
Second.
There's a motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to continue to our next meeting. Any discussion? Tim?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. And we have one last item, Mr. Solicitor.
Thank you. I'm kind of disappointed. I was prepared to just talk for about a half an hour at the executive session, but
I can't hear you right now. What? Go ahead.
We have provided you with a memo and a copy of a case from the Attorney General's office, a recent open meetings violation action. And this is actually the second recent Attorney General's decision on the same Open Meeting Act issue, which is items on an agenda that talk about president's remarks or comments or things like counselors' prerogatives, which is why it's not on this agenda. Basically, the Attorney General is saying that those vague sort of items violate the Open Meetings Act. And if you want to add something to an agenda, you have that power. Only school committees are prohibited from adding items to their agenda. You as a council can add items to the agenda if there's an emergency, of course, but also in the normal course for discussion only or to refer it to some other official or body. So that's why we've asked that you take it off at this one, and our recommendation is that you leave it off your agenda and try to, if you have things that are in this nature, that you get it as something that would go on the agenda ahead of time and define what the report is. Clearly, the Attorney General's office is cracking down on requiring more details in the agenda so that people will know what's going on and not just have an open-ended report item.
So we in the past have, and I speak to my colleagues and the solicitor at the same time here, we in the past have made comment about a passing of a Bristol resident, to share our condolences with the family, to wish people a happy 4th of July, to talk about an upcoming Earth Day. We'll certainly are going to work directly with the solicitor to make sure that we can still share those thoughts, but in a way that is not in violation of the open meetings laws. Obviously, we don't want to do that. It was never, and we're not in any kind of violation, but we don't want to be. So we'll continue to figure out how we make sure that things that come up, there are events that we want to talk about, that we'll be able to continue to share that with the public, so to remind them of a feast or a this or a that, and we'll figure out a way that if we have to have a continued agenda item for upcoming events or something like that, we will figure this out, because I think it's too important. I think the spirit of what the Attorney General is trying to do is correct, but I think that, again, collateral damage on things that you should be able to share, I think we can figure out a way that we're compliant with the law, but yet be able to share it with our with the public. So would you agree with that, Mr. Solicitor?
I would. I think it's possible. I think it's just going to be a little bit more cumbersome, just in a way where Zoom here has had us resort to actually more parliamentary procedure formality. I think this is sort of the same way. You'll be able to talk about it, but there'll have to be a motion made to add it to the agenda and a second and a vote. And then you can talk about things. The Attorney General has said that they see a difficulty in assuming a distinction between non-substantive gratuitous remarks and substantive remarks. And they went on to say that even a brief remark saying the town needed volunteers would be considered substantive town business. So, I caution you, you'd think we could say, oh, we're having the annual maritime festival down at the park. That's just an announcement. That's not substantive. But according to the Attorney General, and if you also added, and we're in need of volunteers, so if you want to volunteer, please contact the harbor master, that would be considered substantive business that should not be just added to the agenda. On the other hand, it could be relatively simple. Either for things that you know in advance, that could be a relatively simple thing. Just add, under this category remarks, Maritime Festival. Just add an item on it, or add it with this motion during the meeting. So it's form over substance, but I think that's the way you have to go around it.
So I think that we also have an opportunity to work with our legislators because this is the Attorney General following the law. Nothing wrong with that. So if the law were to change to allow non-substantive, as the solicitor just pointed out, maybe we can work with our legislators to see that, because I believe that there's value, and I think you all do, of talking about events or church events or whatever it happens to be. And I think it's appropriate. I know we all have brought to light things that are going on in town. I'm looking at the administrator right now, some of the things he'll bring up about the road paving project. I'm sorry, a project, not the road paving project. I don't want to be in violation. So you know where I'm going with this. So I think there's a way that we can do this. And obviously we all want to follow and be in compliance, or follow the law and be in compliance. So that was the goal for tonight. We'll figure out how we do this. What I would ask from my colleagues is that moving forward, anything that you need to share like this, let's get it on the agenda as soon as possible. And if it's just a receive and file quick, that's fine. And if we do need to make a motion to add something for discussion purposes only, I ask that you err on the side of caution. We all want to handle ourselves in that regard. So let's just make that motion. We'll make sure the solicitor is looking out, as he just did for us, for this and then in the future. Okay. So, all right. If there's nothing else, is that Mr. Solicitor, is that a receive and file?
Yes.
Is there a motion?
Yes, it is a receive and file.
I saw Tony. Did I see Tony make that motion?
Yes, so
okay.
move.
Second? Is there a second? Tim made the second to receive and file. Any discussion? So Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
I also say aye. Motion, excuse me, aye. I can't say it anymore. Aye. Motion carries. I just need a motion to adjourn unless I'm missing anything.
Motion to adjourn.
So
We're
move.
not going to executive.
Oh, citizens public forum.
Mr. Clerk, was there any citizens who requested to speak at the Citizens Public Forum?
Not specifically, no. There were many people that asked to speak about the long discussion on the flag situation. There was one person that just sent a rather kind of incomplete request, and I went back and asked if it was for Citizens Public Forum, so I'm not aware of anything specifically.
So we had a motion to adjourn and a second, and I'm not asking for discussion, and we do not need to do a roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
We're not doing executive session, correct?
We are not. We voted to continue that to our next meeting. And I thank you all for your time, and happy 4th to all.
You too.
Happy 4th.
Well, happy